You're listening to the Analuia podcast, where faith and animation collide. Each episode will discuss the various topics in animated movies and TV shows, while also sharing our thoughts and opinions as they relate to faith and spirituality. Get ready to raise a hallelujah. It's time for Analuia.
And you're locked into another episode of the Analuia podcast. My name is Josh, and with my lovely wife, Rebecca. There she is.
Hi.
Oh, hold on. Sorry.
You muted me.
I know. I'm usually so good about that.
You are. Hi. I was expecting more of an intro. Usually you have, I don't know, some random thing that you say.
It's a normal Monday. So
it is. Yeah.
When we're recording this anyway. But yeah, it's a rarity that I just take just a day off. But it always has a purpose, and today's purpose I'm excited about. Absolutely. So I don't want to waste any time. I want to get right into it because we have not just a special guest, but two special guests for our podcast today. So Rebecca, go ahead and introduce our guest.
Yeah, so today our guests, they've spent the past 29 years traveling to 21 different countries and counting, embracing new cultures, meeting incredible people, and learning life lessons along the way. In addition to being world travelers, they are also fellow podcasters. So we're very excited to have the Vogel Twins, Shannon and Kristen, on our show today. Welcome.
We're so excited to be on today. By the way, this voice is Shannon.
And this voice is Kristen.
We forget to do that a lot, even on our own podcast. Like, we forget that we're identical twins.
I know.
But thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, so lovely.
You make me sound so impressive.
That's awesome. I know sometimes you're like, oh, wow. When someone like reads your own resume, you're like, wow, okay, I did pretty good.
It's like, I guess I'm well-traveled, 21 and counting. I forgot.
I love it.
Awesome. So where all have you guys been? You don't have to name all 21, but
Oh my goodness. That's a loaded question.
I know. It's like, where did it even start?
I mean, I'll say this because when people ask us like, where have you been? They always ask like, oh, like what's your favorite, or like what's like a place that like really stands out to you. Yeah. And I will say one of the trips that I think that means the most to me is when we went backpacking Southeast Asia, specifically Vietnam. We were there the longest, and that trip in itself was like incredible. Like not just because of the like, obviously the length is wonderful since we were backpacking for like 2 months, but it was just like the people, the culture, the food. It was during a time in our lives that were like, so it was just, we needed that kind of trip, you know what I mean? Like, it was just amazing. And I know it's different for you though. I mean, you relate to it.
I do. But I will say one of the, I guess, places that we've been to that I've always fully enjoyed is Japan. Probably. It was one of our like dream trips to go to, and it's always kind of like a reach because it's so expensive to go there, and like I never thought at this point in our lives to be able to do as much as we have been. Super grateful that we were able to travel as much as we have.
And we'd like to make our podcast a space to like let people know that like you can do these things. It doesn't have to be this extravagant trip. Like I mean, I say this earlier, like, wow, 21 countries, that's so impressive, but it's not as bougie as you think it has to be. Like you can do it on a budget, you can really enjoy it, and you can see what you can see. It's like we really covered on our podcast for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I love traveling as well. I actually lived in England, in London, for a year when I was getting my master's degree. So that was a lot of fun. So I love traveling around.
Oh my God. We've been to London too. It's so wonderful.
It is so great.
Oh my God. Where in London were you?
So, okay, this is really bougie. It's like every American who goes over, they're like, I stayed in Kensington. That's exactly what I stayed.
Yes. Our older sister also studied abroad in London. She went in the same neighborhood.
Really? Oh, wow. I love it. I mean,
I think all the Americans go there.
Oh my God. It's stunning. We studied abroad in Italy. So that's like our home base. So it's probably, that's half of our countries that we've been to is because we lived there for a bit. So absolutely loved it. Europe is fantastic.
Yes. We're very biased to it.
That's awesome. Where in Italy were you guys? Were you in Rome or somewhere else?
We were in Florence.
Florence.
Yeah, because we're art majors, so one of the biggest cities to go to is Florence. There's a lot of museums and things like that. So art and culture, Florence was definitely the city we had to go to.
Yes, and we did visit Rome. We actually visited Rome twice.
Yeah.
We're actually Catholic, and my mom, she actually came to visit us, and we went to like the Vatican and visited all those areas as well. So it was a really special trip for her since she grew up in like Catholic school, So for her, it was like this full circle moment. There's this one art piece. What is it called again?
Oh my God, don't put me in this spot.
Oh, sorry, art
It's
history.
Michelangelo's
One of his sculptures. It's where like Mother Mary is holding Jesus, and my mom cried immediately. Do you know what I'm talking about? The statue. It's escaping me.
Starts with a V.
Right. I'm literally like my art history teacher is going to be so mad that I don't know this.
No, I passed the test, but once the test is over, I forgot everything. But
that's how it goes.
Fact check that.
Yeah, we will go back to that.
We'll revisit that for sure.
That statue itself is genuinely so breathtaking. It literally looks like it could be breathing. It's unbelievable.
It's amazing. And so it was wonderful for my mom. We were able to show her that. And it was just, as you know, travel is such an amazing experience. The people that you meet, the experiences that you have, it's like there's always a lesson to be learned with whoever you meet and talk to, which is why we really love travel and why we advocate it so hard on our own podcast.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. I totally agree. So it's funny, you said you were art majors. I actually, my undergrad is in fine art.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is like right up your alley.
It is, yes.
Yes.
My master's degree was actually in art history in London. So I got to go all the museums and everything. So yeah.
Oh my
goodness. Can I just say though, as like when I studied art history, the one piece, and I feel like I'm going to be slandered for saying this, I was very underwhelmed when we went to Paris and we saw the Mona Lisa much smaller in person.
I mean, we knew
very small.
I knew it was small, but I was like,
But like they wouldn't even let you go close to it. Like the way it was just such a circus, how like it was presented in a way. But it was honestly a really, as you know, being an art history major, like it was just it was so different when you visit these pieces. And having those courses and classes makes me love museums much more because I can understand what I'm looking at. So I always advocate 100%. For people to like, right. And I just, for me, I think that's why I love animation so much too. I'm a big nerd on like the fine details and like the little things artists do in a painting. So I always find it hysterical. Like in some paintings, I know that if you see a frog, it meant that the woman in the painting or the man was a prostitute. So I always found that
it's like the French
it's like a French word
for frog. It's like had this sort of connotation. So it's like this little nod to it. And I've always like found it funny that an artist would take the time to put something like a little bit of an Easter egg in there.
It's like I feel like it's like the first way of trolling.
It's
like the first way people started trolling.
Honestly. Back then, that's their trolls.
Yeah, I'm glad you're an art history major as well. You know art history too, which I love.
Yes, it's awesome. It is fun to hear, like to know the stories behind something that you're looking at. It makes all the difference in the world. Otherwise, you go in just like, cool, another painting, whatever, you just kind of look through. Maybe you acknowledge that, wow, this is really well done and very expertly done. But knowing the theory and everything behind it, you're like, oh, now I get the full story, and it makes a lot more sense.
No, it was funny. We actually lived when we were in Florence. We actually lived around the corner from Uffizi Gallery, which is a really famous art museum. And when our mom came to visit us, it was actually really funny. At that point, we like just were fresh out of art history classes. So like I knew a lot about you can't quiz me now. As you heard earlier, we didn't know the statue. So don't quiz me now. But back then I knew a lot, So we went to this museum, showed my mom, and we actually showed her as a tour guide in our own way.
Yeah.
So we're walking around telling all these like little insights to the art pieces, like you said earlier. And it was so funny because the tour guides are like, are you one of us? I'm like, no, I'm from America. I just took classes. But it was funny to hear people from the side being like, how do they know so much? And I'm like, my teacher would be very happy that I knew a lot of this stuff. Now I can't vouch for that, but I agree with you. It's really cool to know the behind the scenes of things. And again, I
appreciate the piece so much more.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much fun.
And so much of art history is straight up history told in a visual way. And I find that fascinating because I love history too. So it just kind of makes sense.
Yes. No, it's so cool. I just honestly, and I like loved when I like found out too, even like the styles of paintings and like, I'm sorry, we're going to go through a whole art history major now. I feel awful for your husband.
All right.
You got time.
It's like,
Yeah. No, but
and
I agree with you on that though, with the history though, because it's like what I find so interesting is these iconic painters that we love, like, like Picasso and, all these like really abstract artists, they weren't that famous then. You know what I mean? Like they were actually considered like the trailblazers, and people were like, this is it, Renaissance. But they were now reflecting on it. They're like the revolutionary, you know what I mean? Like it was
just
incredible.
Even knowing how like, even like Matisse is one of probably the most well-known in the sense of like the sort of structure of like other artists. Like you think you're like, oh, like, everyone has a sort of little piece to Matisse, you know what I mean? Which I always found so fascinating to like kind of see those little bits. And
I'm happy you remembered that.
I know, look at me now remembering these things.
Well done.
I'm still mad I couldn't think of that.
A+. Give me one thing.
Oh, awesome. Well, now that we've all gushed about art history, I guess we'll get into our regular scheduled questions here.
Yes.
Okay, so starting off at sort of the beginning, we'd love to hear more about how you grew up and where you got to where you are today.
Oh, wow.
I know,
That's
big
also,
question.
I feel like,
I know. Like, where do you start?
Do you want to start?
No, you do it.
Okay. So, I mean, I think I'm trying to think of how to answer this because I feel like I'm thinking of like the podcast, like travel, but I have to say, I really have to test like who I am as a person to my parents, to be totally honest. I think that I really am so grateful for is that they always let us be creative. I mean, I think especially now, I mean, obviously we're in this creative field. I'm in digital media. Well, we're both product designers outside of being podcasters. We're very ambitious. But what I love is that both my parents were, as growing up, they were just like, explore the world, explore being creative, like do what you love and be passionate about it. And like, just, be curious for life. And I feel like that curiosity has always led me into life in so many different avenues and has really brought us to who we are today in our careers and our passions and our, in our, I guess everyday life, in my opinion, honestly. But I have to give shout out to Mama and Papa Vogel.
Yes.
That's pretty much how I kind of look at it. What about you?
No, honestly, I kind of agree. I think something that they did really well, like when we were younger, is that like we constantly were always just like finding sort of new places in our own area and like finding the love that we have in our own space. You know what I mean? It wasn't like we had to like take a plane to like Europe to have that sort of travel mindset. They're always like, there's always something beautiful in your backyard. And I feel like we kind of constantly think of that when we're even going anywhere. It's like, I don't need to be making my eat, pray, love travel for it to be travel. I could go to a park. I can go to just my next door neighbor and find that sort of beauty there. And I think that something that we constantly always even do today to like, with people, with everything.
Yeah. They always were the kind of people who always loved to make a new friend wherever we went. And they always had conversations with strangers. And I feel like that kind of instilled in us. Every time I travel, I go to a cafe and I see someone, they're painting something. I'm like, ooh, what are you painting? And it leads to this 2-hour beautiful conversation, interaction, and highlight of my trip, just the conversations and people that we meet. But I definitely would say that's a loaded question, but I don't know if that's the answer that you were thinking. That's kind of how I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? Again, Mama and Papa Vogel and all the travels that we've done.
Us our creativity and love for life.
I'm sending them this episode.
Nice. No, that's perfect. Again, we know it is like a loaded question, but no, that's a perfect response.
Yeah, and I love the idea of finding beauty and meaning and just life around you that you don't have to jump on a plane and go across the ocean to travel. You can hop in a car and drive an hour down the road and just see what happens, or just striking up a random conversation with someone that you don't know. I mean, that's adventure. To me, travel is adventure. So
it is.
Get that.
It is. No, you got it perfectly. I think we'd have a good time traveling together.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Kind of feel like, we're on like an episode of Reading Rainbow. It's like you can travel anywhere in the world, even if it's just a book.
Reading the Rainbow. Wow, what a throwback.
I know. Oh my God. Good old LeVar Burton, the host of that.
There you go.
Now I got that jingle in my head. Reading Rainbow. I can't not think of that when I hear that. You said it so well. Well, I couldn't help it. Yeah, apologies. I had to say it out loud. But
that was our childhood.
It really was.
Yes. So speaking of travel, how do you prepare for traveling to different countries? Do you end up like trying to learn the language, watching videos, reading books? What do you do?
Honestly, I would say like a lot of that.
Yeah.
It's really much a mix of
Everything.
these things, but it's actually interesting because I feel like before we even mentioned this, like how we studied abroad in Italy. And to be honest, obviously, like, being from America, we obviously have a lot of like, background understanding like European history and things like that. So I feel like it wasn't as much research when we went to Italy, like as I do now. Like I think one of our first trips that we went on that I felt like I did that sort of experience was when we actually went to Korea. It was probably one of the first places that we went to
We
that
had no
we really
idea.
didn't know much about like their history or like things to see, because granted, Shannon and I, we also love history and culture, and like we went there kind of blind, and I was like, what are we supposed to see when we're there? Like, I don't know. And our friend was studying there, so she's like, oh, come and visit me. So that was kind of like our pull to go.
Yeah.
But we still like, we're like, no, we want to, understand their culture, their history, like what we're going to be seeing here. So one of the big things we did was actually watch TV, like their TV show. So that's what got us
K-dramas?
hooked into.
Yes.
Love
We
them.
got hooked. We got hooked.
We got hooked.
Oh my
You
god.
start with one and it's over.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
know.
our first exposure was Running Man, if you know what that is. And my friend showed us an episode of like the City of Seoul, and like she's like, oh, like watch this episode.
And
And like,
Running Man, for people who don't know, it's
Yeah.
this reality show of a bunch of these celebrities who do these like really wacky challenges with these other like A-list celebrities in their
it's
like
all over
community.
Korea.
But it's all over Korea. They do all these adventures all over South Korea. And one particular one was in Seoul, which where we were going. So she sent us this episode, and we're watching this fun adventure unfold in the city we're about to visit, which is getting us so excited to
Yeah.
go. But what was really interesting about like, absorbing this media is while you're watching this TV show, you're understanding their sense of humor, like not even just the area, but the kind of food that they eat. Because it's
Yep.
like there's just a bunch of different things that are culturally combined in this TV show. But
Mhm.
it trickles down to, like you mentioned earlier, like the K-dramas are what you'd expect. These Korean dramas of like these rich people or like
depending on
romance.
depending on the
It
show.
depends
yeah.
on the show, but it's like there's just such an array of interesting storylines. And my friend sent me a whole list of K-dramas to watch before, which kind of also trickled down to listening to K-pop and like listening to these new songs. And
Mhm.
it was just so infectious that it kind of actually became our new standard of how to understand a new culture. So
Yeah.
every time I traveled somewhere, I actually ended up adapting this South Korean mindset where I'm like, what are the TV shows? What's the music? Like,
Yeah.
what kind of language can we learn? Like Duolingo. But at
Yeah.
the time it wasn't a thing though, Duolingo. I would Google translate a lot of stuff. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is when we were traveling back, we were saying earlier with
Yeah.
studying abroad, we didn't have smartphones. We had a penny phone and we shared a phone. So like
Mhm.
we didn't have the luxury of smartphones until we went to South Korea.
That was our first time where I was like, wow, this is so much
Nice.
better.
We didn't get lost as
We didn't
much.
get lost
Makes
as
a
much, which
difference.
was really lovely. But
It makes a huge difference. But yeah, Korea really taught us to like,
do
immerse
that sort of
ourselves.
extra thing.
Yeah, and it makes a whole difference because when we met people in Korea,
Yes.
these shows and the music that we got to understand, they were surprised. Like, how do you know that? And we became friends because of this commonality we had with one another.
Mhm.
And I loved
And
that
taking the
bond.
time to like
Yeah.
do that, obviously, like I think speaks volumes to
Yeah.
like before you get to somewhere. So I think
Yes.
it's something, it has become our Korean standard now. Anytime
Yes.
we go anywhere, that's what we do.
Yeah, you
Awesome.
got to do it. It's much more fun.
It is.
Yeah, because you can it's like you can fully immerse yourself into what's going on, and you understand, kind of like we were talking about with art history, you understand the story of the people and a little more about who they are. And yeah, that's really, really cool. I love that. I would I typically do that as well. I remember when maybe not quite such a deep dive, but I remember when I was gonna go to Scotland. I like bought a book and like read like the history of Scotland and
Oh my God.
like where it went, and I watched many Scottish TV shows and all of the kind of things. So so yeah, I get it. I love that. That's awesome.
Oh my God.
Deep dive in.
That's so fun. If you ever go back to Scotland, I recommend Outlander.
Oh, I love Outlander.
I love Outlander.
Woo,
Oh my
Outlander.
God.
Sassenach. Does wonders. I love that show. No, but that's so cool though. I'm glad that it's like a thing too. Like it's like I feel
Yeah.
like it's nothing like crazy original, but it's something that gets you excited for a trip when you familiarize yourself with like the area, the location, the food. Like it's just it's such an experience that we really advocate when someone goes on a trip. I'm like, oh, like especially for us, like when people ask us recommendations, like, oh, like, where do you think you should see? I actually send them on it. We have itineraries, obviously, but I actually send them more media stuff where I'm like, oh, you should check out this show or this song and like get excited. And they're like, that's so cool. And when we went out, we would hear the music and I could sing along with the locals.
So it was always like fun to kind of do that.
Yeah. And I like also adapting the accent. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody. I just want to clarify that. I admire the accent. I wish I had a cool accent.
But it definitely helps with like if there's a certain like dialect or like ways to like sound a little bit more natural if you're trying to practice the language. So I find like that really helpful.
Yes.
So it definitely helps when you're like, because reading it phonetically sometimes you can totally butcher it, and we totally have.
Yeah.
So it definitely helps when you're
watching movies and shows can help you even like understand the language. Like, I actually will never forget this. When we were back in America, actually, we love Korean food now. Ever since South Korea, we are addicted to Korean food. I'm obsessed with it. And you ordered on the phone all these Korean dishes, and like we know how to say these things just because we've been practicing for so long. When we got to the store, the restaurant was like, they're like, you're not Korean? And she's like, no, did I say it right? He's like, I would have never known.
And they literally had people in the back like come to the front to be like, she's a white girl. Like, she's not Korean. And I was sitting there like, oh, I can't wait to, because we have some Korean friends as well. And I literally texted them. I was like, you guys would be so proud. I was like, I said it right. They thought that I was like, you know,
I was fluent. We're not fluent.
We're not even close.
I can say a few words.
I can say my favorite dishes.
That's what matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, Korean can be difficult. Yeah, like of course I can't think of anything right now, but just watching the shows, you end up just what that means. And even if it's like not translated at the bottom correctly, you're like, oh, well, I know what that means because you've heard it so many times. So it's kind of funny. I was doing that the other day. I was watching Panchico, and it was so good. Have you heard of that one or watched it?
No, which is crazy. Is it a newer show?
It is. So it's on Apple TV, and it came out
that's why I don't have
a couple months ago. I think. Yeah. We have like a free trial or something right now. And I was like, okay, while we have it, I want to finish it. But it was a book first, and then they made it into a movie. It's about this woman's life. She was like born in like 1917, I think. And so she lived through the Japanese not invasion, but occupation. There we go. Occupation. And she ended up, anyway, she goes through this whole journey of her life, but it tells about not just her growing up, but also her grandson, I think, in like 1989. So it goes back and forth between like 1930 to 1989. It's really good. So yeah, highly recommend.
Apple TV.
Yeah,
I think
at least a free trial.
Yeah, we're doing this.
We're gonna get the free trial, and we're gonna watch that, and we'll get back to you. I'm gonna email you all my notes.
Yes, love it.
Speaking of which, talking about like getting ready for travel and watching, it reminds me of we did a subscription box. It was like a couple of years ago called Universal Yums, and yeah, so I think
you guys would like it.
Yeah, I don't know how authentic it is, but I remember our first box. You get a choice between countries, and we chose. I think we chose Egypt for some reason.
Yeah,
and
so it's a different country each month.
Right,
they send you a box full of their snacks from different countries, and like a little fact book about what's like popular in the country, and you can make a little dish from the country itself, and there's like a drink recipe typically. It was so much fun to do this.
That sounds so cool.
That does sound like something up our alley.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing.
Another thing to do after this.
Yeah, I need to write this list down.
I know.
Okay, I gotta watch a Korean drama. I gotta have a subscription box.
Yes.
Like this list is I feel like it's gonna keep adding up. Yes. I love this suggestion.
So cool.
Yeah, because I will say, I don't know if you guys were able to, because I know you said different months. I will say this: Japanese snacks are on another level. They're so delicious.
We did two. We did which I think they're kind of similar. We did Japan Crate, we did Tokyo Treat, and we did Sakura box as well.
Oh yeah, the Sakura box was the tea one. It had
Yes.
like little baked
Oh,
goods and different teas that came with it. So fun.
Oh
Oh.
my goodness. No, I love
Yeah, we
that.
love tea. That sounds amazing.
know.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, I'm writing this down.
Get a notepad. It's all good.
But
Yes.
one thing I will say about Egyptian snacks, again, I don't know if we just got a
Yeah.
unique box, but we were like going through. It's like, do Egyptians just eat a lot of wafers? Because that's like half the box.
Most of it was wafers. Yeah. I mean, wafers are good.
I like it.
Like-
You know, I was gonna say I love vanilla wafers.
Me
I
too.
think they're
You know
delicious.
what's funny? When you said Egypt, I'm thinking about it. I don't even know what an Egyptian snack is.
yeah.
That's so interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
we
I-
haven't been to Egypt yet.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
one
don't
place I
know.
haven't been, but it's on the list like everywhere
Yes.
else. And I'm definitely I'll get a lot of wafers then when I get there.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
snack to get.
Try 'em out.
I like it. I like wafers. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Egypt.
yeah. Absolutely. I think
Yeah. Well,
one
it's
of-
very Mediterranean, at
Yes.
least in the northern part. So I think that's pretty stays, I guess.
Okay.
Very-
That makes sense.
Noted.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was like a lot of lemon flavors. If I remember,
Ooh.
it was so long ago. It's hard to like pull back the memory
Oh,
of
yeah.
what that
It wasn't.
movie had.
It didn't sound like the best box, but it sounded like a box still that was like decent.
That was interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
it was
it was-
memorable. It was memorable.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
still
memorable.
it was interesting. I think we did a year of it, and then we just started going to like other subscription boxes and just seeing what they were all about. I will say, if you are in the market for interesting Kit Kats, Japan Crate
Oh,
or
yeah.
Tokyo Treat, you're always gonna
Yes.
guaranteed Kit Kats.
I don't know. Is
100%.
that a thing
Yeah, when
in
we-
Japan? Like Kid
Yes.
Kat?
Yes, there is so many different
Kit Kats.
It's
It's not-
it
not
is
a joke.
insane.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
I
apologize.
just realized-
We do not have our charger and our computer's about to die.
I'm
Can
gonna
we
go
look
get
it
it.
up
Oh,
quick?
Oh,
I am so sorry.
No,
No
that's
I thought
okay.
we had the charger. I am so sorry. I don't know why. We have everything else set up, and then the most important thing, which is the charger. I
okay.
apologize for
No worries.
stopping.
Good. At least you realize it now before it just completely died. You know?
I know, because they're like, your Mac is about to die. And I'm like, oh my God, quick.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the scariest thing because it's like, oh my gosh, if I don't plug this in this second, it's gonna die on me. You're like, why
I
did you not tell me
know.
this earlier?
I
God.
know. I literally was like,
I don't know
"Holy
why.
crap."
I thought it was fully charged. I usually have it on, even if it's fully charged, just as a precaution. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like us to not have it. So I'm like, that's like the one thing we didn't have on our
Thank God
checklist.
it noted it because I was like, oh my God, if we just like blacked out right now.
That was a twin moment because we both were like, we saw the red. We're like, oh, we saw like the red battery.
apologies. I didn't
No
want to
worries.
like all of a sudden like get off and then have to do the whole thing. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
And that's a podcast, everybody.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know. Oh my God. Apologies.
It's okay. No worries. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get down. Let's go ahead and get further into our interview
Oh,
questions.
yes.
Yeah.
Forget about these. We're just having such great
I know,
conversation.
yeah.
Enjoying it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
Let's see. We've already answered the question, what's been your favorite country you've traveled to and why? So that's good. Oh, oh, well, that's a funny question, Josh. So Josh is the one who writes all of these questions.
Oh,
So I have
really?
no idea
Wow.
what they are before he's like, okay, do the interview.
Here
I'm
we
like,
go.
cool. So being that you're identical twins,
Oh yeah, I remember this one. Okay.
Oh.
have you ever pulled a sister switch?
Yes, we have.
Oh,
We've done it multiple times.
Yes, we have. We actually, our first episode on the podcast, the Vogel Twins, is like the whole breakdown of like the scheme itself. I don't know
Yes.
if you want us to talk about it briefly or not, but
Oh yeah.
I-
go
go
ahead.
for it.
Yeah.
okay. So, all right, I'll start the story.
Yes, go. This is how it
All right,
goes.
I'm excited. This is like one of my favorite questions. I feel like only twins can
Can
pull
do
this
this,
off,
so-
obviously. So it was one of those things that, like in life, at this point in our lives, this was high school, and I don't know how schools are around America, but in our school district, they wouldn't allow twins to be together. Like we were intentionally separated.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. We're friendly. I can make friends. that was fine. But what was interesting was in our high school, out of nowhere, they put us together in every single class except for one. So we thought this would be a fun opportunity to be like,
Yes.
we should switch at least once in our lives. Like we're identical twins. We could pull this off. We should just do it. And she's like, okay, like let's just try it. Okay. So it was like the first week. It was like the first or second week of school or
So
something.
it's like, we
it was
can get
like
away with
fairly
this.
like early. So they wouldn't be able to tell a difference, you know, if they could. So how our scheme work is that we would tell one friend in the classroom, just in case if there was like a hiccup or something like that.
So
we
if I messed up, I had a person
a
to
friend
like
to be
back
like-
me up, to be like, no, you're Shannon.
like I'm Kristen.
Yeah,
Like, you know, so we ended up switching classes successfully. They had no idea whatsoever. Like it went without a hitch. Like the teacher actually, I felt kind of bad. You had a pop quiz and I failed.
Yes, she
You were
did.
ahead.
Yeah, and my class was ahead of Shannon's, and I made her so smart. Like they were answering questions, and I was like, "Oh, this answer." And they're like, "Wow, Shannon, you read ahead in the textbook." And I was like, "Yeah."
It's like my class is just ahead.
Yeah,
like
my class
not
is
the
ahead of
case
you.
at all. So we successfully switched. I don't know if it's really considered successful when you failed and I did great. I think it was a success.
you failed.
It was a
my
success for
test.
me, you know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: the next day, we thought it was kind of funny because it was really lighthearted, you know, like we weren't trying to make a fool of anybody. It was just a light prank in our eyes. When we told the teachers, my teacher was not happy about it. He
Yes.
actually took it
Which
very
was
offensively.
surprising, because I'll say
Yeah.
this right now, Shannon's teacher, like he was like the new teacher, like really funny and like
Yeah.
chill. So like out of the two, I assumed he would have thought this was funny. And then my teacher, he was like the football coach, kind of like a little bit of a hard ass. So I was kind of like nervous to tell him, but Shannon wanted to tell her teacher. So I was like, well, I have to tell mine if you're going to tell yours.
Like it's going to be found out.
But my teacher thought it was so funny. He was like, I can't believe you did that to me. Like, you know, I dare you to do it again.
So the year goes by and I was like,
Towards the
Kristen,
end, yeah.
I was like, Kristen, let's do it again.
And I'm like, you know, as much as I'd like to, if I got caught in your class, your teacher was mad. Like I was like, I would get like the wrath, you know, and you would not.
I know your teacher would laugh, but knowing this, I told us like, Kristen, whatever happens, I will take all the blame. Like we should totally do this. I'm really gung-ho on it. And she's being really hesitant. And I'm just like, you know what? Grow a pair. We're going to do it. You know, like, let's do this. So we do, when we switch, we try to not, obviously we're not like trying to cheat and do a test day.
Like the pop quiz was an accident.
That was
obviously.
an accident. It was a pop quiz,
But
So-
we'll never switch
I
on
would
a
never
day.
switch on an important day. So her class was watching a movie and I was like, oh, that's perfect. They'll never know, you know? So I sit down, I'm in her class and we're watching a movie. I'm like taking notes. And all of a sudden the teacher is staring at me very intensely. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm Kristen. Like I'm writing these notes down, trying to be like, okay, like I got my whole spiel going.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, all dramatically, he leaves the room. And I'm like, what is going on? And he comes back with security guard. And I'm like, what's going on? Turns on the light all dramatically, turns off the television, the movie, and the room goes silent. And he points to me and goes, that girl is not a part of my classroom. Escort her to the principal's right
And
now.
I just want to let you know, we're like straight A.
I'm a
honors
straight A
student.
honor student. Even though this prank sounds like, wow, they're wild children, I am not. This is
Like,
the most
I am-
rebellious thing I have done in my life. So I am low key panicking because I'm like, oh my God, I am in huge trouble. But I promised Kristen I would take all the blame. So in my head, I was like, how did he know? Like, this is crazy. And again, our school, we're connected with phones. And I'm thinking maybe she got caught and like the teacher called when he like left the room or something. Like this, a million things are going through my head. As I'm being escorted out, the teacher goes, Shannon, we knew it was you the whole time. Kristen decided to pull the prank on you and tell us you were switching.
Oh.
She maneuvered with the teacher to get back at me.
Yeah. So
That's
now
funny.
let me tell you how that's going through me.
I know.
So my teacher, we were chit-chatting, obviously, just like whatever, one random class. And he was like, did you ever switch on me again? Like, and I told him, I was like, no. I mean, at this point, like we have a good
We have a
relationship.
relationship
you know,
with
like,
the teachers.
I have a
now.
good relationship with teachers because we're good students. And he's like, do you ever switch on me? I was like, no, I didn't. He goes, damn, I would love to get Shannon back for doing what she did to me. And I was like, you know what? To be honest, she would die if she got caught because we're good students. And he's like, oh, do you think you can like get her to do it? And I'm like, maybe. So I actually, which I think we forget, is that like
You
I
kinda did-
convinced her initially being like, hey, like, what do you think about switching again? And Shannon was so excited about it. So I was like, oh, I hooked her in. So then I tell my teacher and I'm like, hey, yeah, like, Shannon's in. I think and he's like, we'll make it like a movie day so you're not missing anything. I was like, great. And then he's like, what would be even better if we get a security guard? And I was like, oh, now I feel bad. She's going to really die. So I was like, oh, I don't know. So then I talked to Shannon. I'm like, hey, like, do you still want to do it? Are you sure? And Shannon's like, grow a pair. And I was like, okay, we're still doing it. I was like, you deserve that. I was like, sure.
And that's one of our most iconic switching stories.
Yes.
And every year we picked a teacher to do this too. And we never got caught.
No, aside from that moment.
Aside from that moment, because
I was a traitor.
Did you ever actually like tell any other teachers after it was already done, or just
no, they were the only ones
They were the
After
only
that,
ones.
we kept silent.
We kept silent. And like it was funny because we had that reputation, because that was freshman year of high school. So that reputation grew very quickly. And every teacher was like, are you really Kristen? Are you really Shannon?
And to be honest, like no one could prove otherwise.
No one could prove otherwise. So I was like, you'll never know. And I always said that teasingly. I was like, you'll never know. Like, we're not going to say it this time. And we did it every year. Nobody caught us though.
Yeah.
Nobody did, which was
we
fun.
never got caught.
Yeah, we never got caught. We never told anybody. But some of the students would know though. That was kind of the fun thing. Our friends
we always had at least one backup, regardless of our confidence in the fact that we are identical. There's always still a little bit of like,
there was insurance.
There was insurance in case something went wrong.
Yeah. But it's really fun. As an identical twin, that's like a thing I felt as a rite of passage. Like if you're a twin, you have to have one switching story. And I like to pride myself in a pretty epic one.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good story. Good switching story. So fun. Yeah, I kind of agree. Like if you're an identical twin, like why not?
We couldn't help
exactly. We had to. We look pretty identical. So I was like, we can really pull this off.
Yeah, we can make this work.
Awesome. Let's see what else do we have on here.
Well, we're pausing. I'm gonna get the cat out.
Okay.
Which one are you?
The second to last one. I didn't even finish reading.
Oh, I thought you were asking me to look at it.
No. It's my paper. Let's see. Okay, so this one's about your podcast. So your podcast, The Vogel Twins, is mainly about travels, world travels. And you've had several guests on your show to talk about their stories. What got you interested in doing a podcast?
Another great loaded question. I love these questions.
I know. I feel like where to even begin, really, because I feel like it still derives from probably even the other question of like us being younger, being curious about people, constantly feeling like this sort of yearning for like either like, that sort of connection with people no matter what. And I think that that's kind of like, especially because when we first started our podcast, it was pretty much it was like an exploration between like our friends and family, the way that we would have our conversations. And then a lot of people were like, why aren't you doing travel? You guys love it and stuff like that. So we kind of started evolved into more of the travel conversations, because when we look back at our lives, we realized the lessons that we've learned the most was when we were traveling, or just like, those sort of interactions that you have with people and like what you've learned from other people.
Because again, like we mentioned earlier, like you don't need to have like an eat, pray, love to like have like this revolution. I just think end of day, you need to like push your comfort zone a bit and try to explore something new outside of like your own little bubble or own little world. Like that to me is like the definition of travel. It's like get out of your comfort zone, explore. And that kind of correlates with our podcast in a way that like I wanted to share those messages with other people and have them understand that like you might be nervous solo traveling, or you might be nervous about these places because of a certain reputation, but we've been there. I can tell you with like, guarantee and safety that we're okay. If we can do this, you can do this. And the people that we have on our podcast are all walks of life and all ages. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it, is that some of these people, like granted, I know like, with social media, like the young people really glamorize travel, and it's wonderful. I think everyone should romanticize their lives. I'm not saying that, but what I think is really cool is that there should not be ageism when it comes to travel. No matter how old you are, you can still explore and have a life. You don't need to end it once you are done with your 20s. Like I want to make sure people know that. So that's kind of what really brought us to like want to really hone in on travel podcasts. Not just, I don't want it to be like a space of bragging how many places I've been. No. It's about the lessons and conversations I have with the different people that I would never have met if I didn't go outside of my home, which I think is super important.
Great
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's great. And adding to what you said, again, age shouldn't dictate, well, should I travel? Where can I travel? Because her grandparents are like in their 70s and 80s, and they just got that from what, Italy?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they went to Italy. It is getting harder for them to be mobile, but yeah, they've been like go go go. They always go on the Viking River cruises.
I love that.
That's so cute.
But yeah, it's so much fun to talk with them about travel too. So I think they really instilled that in me as well, in my family.
Yeah. I honestly think that the older people, to be totally honest with you, the conversations I have, I'm more inspired by that because I feel like, it's one of those things that like you see someone do it and you're like, wow, I can be that too. I think that's what's so important. Like I will never forget when we went to Cambodia, and I'm not kidding you. Again, like this was such a cool moment for the both of us. Cause I mean, we're at this point. I feel like this was kind of our eat, pray, love. This is our little eat, pray, love. This is our little eat, pray, love moment. We can all have it no matter what degree, in my opinion. But what was really cool is we met this elderly woman from Laos, and she was talking about life and how she refuses to allow an age to like make her stop like learning or traveling or being curious. And having that conversation with her inspired me to not like limit myself to I'm going to travel a lot in my 20s and I can settle down. It's like, no, I can bring my family on these adventures. I can grow old with my family and teach them these lessons no matter how old I get. And I think that's super important to have people older share their stories too, not just these young people who have the energy to do a lot. Like there's different types of travel. And I think it's important to cover that.
I think it's important how it evolves as you get older.
Yeah.
So there is differences in travels.
Like the Viking cruise.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. That's how they need to travel. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love looking at you can still have adventure. Your adventure may just look a little different. And
Exactly.
but it's still adventure, and that's okay. We actually did we were just recorded a podcast with someone about the movie Up. And have you guys seen Up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Judging by your faces, yes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yes.
Pixar's best 5 minutes of cinema ever.
Yes. The nonverbal communication.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So great.
Stunning.
Phenomenal.
I have to say I do love Doug.
Me too.
Doug is so
Fun.
Doug's the best.
Sorry, continue.
So my point of bringing that up is that it's all about adventure. This whole movie was about a lot of things, but it's all about adventure. And at the end of the movie, he thinks that this book that his wife created of my adventure book, and thinking about only traveling to other places, and but then he ends up seeing the rest of the book that she actually filled it out, and it was their life together, and that was an adventure. So adventure looks
You're
different
gonna make
for
me
everyone.
cry again. You're gonna make me cry again. That movie makes me so emotional.
I know. I love their
it's
love
so good.
story.
A roller coaster.
Indeed it is,
know?
yes.
Laughing, crying. It's great.
Yeah. All the emotions.
Exactly. Well, kind of moving away from travel and all of these wonderful things, we are watching an anime or talking about an anime today.
Yes.
So we'd love to hear. I know this is again a really hard question. I don't know if I could answer this, so but we're going to subject you to it.
Thank you.
What are your top 5 anime movies or TV shows?
You are literally throwing us with the hard-hitting questions.
I know.
But you know what's kind of nice about this question? We
Yes.
can make it 10, 5, 5.
Yeah,
There you go.
There you go.
That was our loophole.
That's our loophole,
Because
okay?
that's really hard.
Because honestly, I have to it's just so difficult because it depends on my mood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But today's answer, okay, that's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
say. For today's answer, you go first.
I will. Okay, so for my top 5, I'll definitely say Naruto, Attack on Titan, Full Metal Alchemist, but Brotherhood. There's a difference. Haiku, because we were actually volleyball players, so it does it very, very well. Being athletes, I'm like killed it. And Jujutsu Kaisen is definitely top tier and highly recommend.
It's still early, but I'm
It's still
obsessed.
early. It's still only season 1, but the hype lives up, and I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Mappa does an amazing job with their animation style, and I'm obsessed with their entire studio.
Mappa's an animal. They do the best stuff.
know.
But if I have to say my 5, honestly, your 5
I
is
know.
my 5, but we're going 10 here now. Okay. So
Because
I
we
just
have
want
the
to say, I agree
opportunity.
with you. I agree with you on that 5,
Yes.
but I'm going to elaborate on the other 5. So my other one would be, because you said movies or a series. So I'm
Yeah,
going
Right.
to say
Right.
one movie. I mean, granted, Howl's is a given, but I'm not counting that because we're going to talk about that today. But Your Name, I
Mhm.
love Your Name. It is such a good one. I love Demon Slayer. It's so good. A
So
funny
good.
one that I don't know if enough people talk about. I'm obsessed with it. We've seen it. We've rewatched it like 3 or 4 times.
It makes me laugh every time.
Every time gets me. Kaguya-sama Love is War cracks me up. If you guys haven't seen it, it is so
Very
funny.
funny.
It's so
Yes.
funny. Love One Punch Man and Mob Psycho. So I'm going
Yes.
with 3 funnies.
Like those are ones that
Those
make
are
us
like
laugh.
those are the ones. I feel like those solid 10 are like I have rewatched them. I feel like I've dissected them. I feel like I've cried, laughed, all the emotions for all of those.
Yes. So those are our top 5, 10.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. So can I get some on Love is War? Yes. We've watched a little bit of the second season. So
Yes.
doing that.
It's so good.
We're actually rewatching the first season of Shield Hero.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
good.
Yeah. And
We haven't watched that one yet, but it's on our list.
it is.
I know.
their faces. I'm
You're like,
excited.
"Oh, I-
Yeah.
Again, another thing on the list that we have to do after this.
I'm looking for a new show, so I'm really excited to
I
see
feel
that.
like keep rewatching.
We've been
things.
rewatching things I haven't been excited about a lot.
Yeah.
We actually
Right.
did start one show called Spy Family, and it just started.
Oh
It's very
So
my
good.
gosh! Yes.
so
So
good. It's
cute.
so good. See, it's hard when you said 5. We're going for 20 now.
I know.
So many
It's so
shows.
good.
I mean, in my personal opinion, Anya makes that show, no question
Oh.
asked.
Oh.
The fact that she can read minds and it's just like
Yes.
every little interaction just makes it that much funnier. But there's so much heart to it too, you know. Like I
Right.
love it.
But I think it's just so funny that he's a spy, she's like an assassin, and she's a mind reader. And like
Yeah.
their dynamic is just we
they
were
make
talking
the perfect family.
They do, but
Yeah.
I think the
It's
writing
so
is
cute.
brilliant. The
Oh,
writing
yeah.
is brilliant. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is so funny, but it's so cute at the same time. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It can be violent, but it's so funny.
Yes.
It hits like all the major points that
It
you want
does.
in a show.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it does.
Nice.
Yeah. The reason why I brought up Shield Hero is we watched it subbed the first, and now we're watching it dubbed since it's all dubbed now. And
Okay.
we thought it was funny because again, I won't give away any spoilers, but there's a character in the first scene before all the adventure starts, and he has like this conception that it's like, oh well, she seems like this type of person, and they're like, oh, just you wait, she is.
Just you wait.
I actually do enjoy watching it in subbed and dubbed. I know there's a huge debate, like which way do you watch it?
Right.
And I'm like, I'm fine with either. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it. Like I usually watch it subbed just because it's always like, aired quicker that way. 'Cause it's
Right.
like ahead. So I want to know immediately.
Yeah.
And then I watch it in dubbed. And sometimes it could be either good or bad. But I think
Yeah.
they've gotten much better like
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah, I
though.
think they do a really good job with, and I actually want to say it's Demon Slayer with the way that the sub and the dub is. I think they do a really good job, like vocally
Matching it.
like matching it. Like sometimes, like it could be so like off. And granted, like that's fine. Like I don't mind, but like I want to say it's Demon Slayer.
No, you're
that
right,
They
it is.
have like I think that they nailed like the vocal tone between both, which I'm like
Absolutely.
very impressed by. I'm like I love Demon Slayer.
Oh, I love them all.
It's so good.
I would say probably Demon Slayer, I think, is my number one out of
Oh,
like
it's so
everything
good.
that we've watched. I could watch all of what's available right now, like multiple
Mhm.
times, like in a row probably, and be just fine. I don't, for whatever reason, it's just, it hits everything for me. I'm like,
I
"Oh,
just
so
feel like
good."
Yes.
Tanjiro is such an
Tanjiro?
amazing
Wow.
character. I just feel like with like
Goals.
masculinity
what-
and like he just breaks that mold of just like being vulnerable,
does.
but like it
Yes.
being still very strong. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this familial love that he
But
has
the
with his
strength too of
sister.
asking for help. I think that's so
Yes.
important for kids to know this. Like subconsciously, like as adults, we see Tanjiro, like I feel the struggle.
Like,
I
relate
feel
to
you
you.
relate, but as kids, it's such a good thing to see
A
that there's a
message.
message like that out there. I think it's incredible. But actually, it's funny when Demon Slayer was airing because we were watching it in subbed. I know it's dubbed. It's still aired right now, or is it done? We've been watching
Yes.
it in dubbed.
It's done,
Right.
yeah.
So dubbed for the first arc, and I think they just had done dubbing for the entertainment
right?
district.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was thinking.
Okay. We actually, like you said, it's funny how you can rewatch it. every Sunday when it would air, we'd rewatch it 3 times because it was the only show we were watching. And I was like, I miss it. I want to watch it again. And we would rewatch it all the time. It's so good. I think it's still so good though. Even when you rewatch it a million times, it's like hits me so hard. I love that show.
It's so good. There was another one that we were really looking forward to every Saturday night. What was it, Josh? What's it called? Crybaby is the
Tokyo Revengers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tokyo Revengers.
Our friend watched it. And
shout out to Jack.
Shout out to our friend Jack. He was very into that show too. He's like, you have to watch it. But I feel like at the time I was like in a queue of a lot of shows, and I was like, I will get to it. Like I'm really watching my Demon Slayer.
Priorities here.
There are for me not to skip an opening like each time takes a lot. Tokyo Revengers is one of them. And it got to the middle, kind of like the middle part of it, and they had a new ending. I'm like, oh, I hope that's not the new opening.
Yeah, we were like, no, don't change it.
How
don't
dare
change
you.
it.
That's funny. That reminds me of when for Jujutsu Kaisen, the first like half of the season is like this incredible opening. And I agree with you. It takes a lot for me not to skip things because it's like I just want to get to the show, I can rewatch. I listen to it at the gym. It's my go-to. It's my go-to running playlist. But like that intro and even just the animation itself, like the storytelling in the opening, is one of the best I've seen in a really long time. Like I'm like, it is incredible. And they had to do a follow-up, in the second, part of the season. And I think they did a good job, but the first, you can't beat it in my opinion. It
gave me that first like, oh my God, what is this show?
Like, it made me really love it. And it's just like, and what I really like about certain intros, and I'm unsure how it is for Tokyo Revengers, but it's like some of it has some hidden clues about the season upcoming. I love when they do that.
At first you're like, oh wow, this is artsy, or like, it's really well done. But then as the show goes on, you're like, oh my God, that was a little clue to this little thing. And you're like,
I feel like our history is coming full circle. Yes. It's like, I really appreciate the little nods to things where I'm like, oh, like there's more meaning than just making it look cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a whole story.
They do a great job both ways.
Yes, it's amazing.
Wonderful. That's great. Well, with all this talk of anime, I think it's time to get on to our main topic, and that is the film. And I want you two to introduce what we will be talking about today.
Oh my God. I kind of already spoiled it with the top 10.
Right.
I apologize. But today we're going to be talking about one of our favorite films, minus the 10 we talked about, but Howl's Moving Castle. I have literally seen it I feel like 500 times.
Yes.
Like I am obsessed with this.
It's a Miyazaki film.
Yes.
And one of our favorites, honestly.
Yeah.
He's done a lot at Studio Ghibli.
Yes. I don't know if you say Ghibli or Ghibli. There's a debate on that too.
We
just say Ghibli.
Ghibli, yeah.
Ghibli.
Okay, so Studio Ghibli.
Studio Ghibli. But so we're just really excited to talk about that today. It's one of our, honestly, he's done an amazing amount of films, but this one just really stands out to us. Like we've been rewatching it since since it came out.
It still hits home.
Yes.
And it has been out for quite a while. So when we did our pre-meeting, you said, oh yeah, we watched it so many times. Well, we're going to test that with a little bit of the game.
Oh, no.
I'm so bad with I watched it last night in hopes this would help, but like I also am nervous.
I feel like I said that and I set myself up to fail.
Yeah, to be like, you never seen.
I know.
But what's where we have?
Okay. Now granted, these aren't too difficult.
Okay.
I kind of almost want it to be hard that way if we did it wrong. But
it's okay. People will feel like fine for us. Okay. Okay. I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Okay.
All right. So these are just since about 12 questions, and if you get it right, you'll hear this, and if you get it wrong, you'll hear this.
Oh no! Rejection.
Rejection.
All right. First question: what year did Howl's Moving Castle come out?
Oh my god!
I don't know those things.
When 2002.
All right, since there's both of you, I'll give you 2 chances on each question.
Oh, fuck, that was wrong then.
No.
That was wrong.
I don't know why. I want to say, I don't know. 97?
Is it? I don't know.
No, what was it? I'm curious now.
It was 2005.
I was closer.
10 years.
I was really
closer.
off.
Oh my god.
Okay, in my defense though, these 2 years don't feel real, so I don't know the years anymore.
Yeah, 2002.
My feelings on the years now are all blended. I don't know years anymore.
Yeah.
I'm in denial.
No worries. Again, that's the only time related question.
Okay.
Oh no.
I feel like we're gonna fail this quiz.
Okay.
Wait,
It's okay.
continue.
In the beginning of the movie, what type of shop does Sophie work in?
Hat
Hat
shop.
Okay.
Yay!
Okay. I was like, "Whew, okay, I know this one. Yeah.
All right. What is the name of Hal's apprentice?
Oh, his name.
It's okay in the movie. He's like she says Markle, but I know it's also Mark. It's Mark or Markle.
Markle.
Yay!
Markle?
Perfect.
Markle, yep.
Markle.
Markle.
Yes, perfect.
You know what's funny? In the book, I think it's Mark, and I don't know why. I was like, what? But I like Markle.
We're gonna keep it.
we're gonna say Markle.
That is correct. All right. Who voices Hal in the English version?
Christian Bale. Don't get me
What?
started. Oh, that line. I can't.
All right, perfect. You kind of already answered this one, but we'll go through it with it. True or false? The movie is based on a novel.
True.
Loosely, but yes.
Loosely, yes.
I didn't know that actually. Based on a novel.
You know what's, you know what's funny? I only recently discovered that this year. Like I was kind of like, I think it was like, pandemic times. And I, again, was rewatching it so many times that I think the art history nerd in me was like, I've never really dove deep into like Howl's Moving Castle. I've just enjoyed it for what it was, the media.
Right.
And I realized it was a book. And I was like,
and it's
I haven't
very,
read it,
I'll
though.
say it's loosely based
Yes.
because apparently there
Yes.
was no war in the book at all.
Right.
Which is very fascinating, the fact that there is one in here, but
Yeah.
That is.
so very loose, very loose.
All right. And let's see here. Okay. What material is Hal's castle made out of?
material? Is it
Uh-huh.
like it's metal and wood? As I feel like metal. I'm gonna go metal and wood. Okay, is that bad?
No.
What is it? Magic?
Kind of.
Kind of. So from what I've read, a lot of people thought it was metal and wood, but have you ever noticed that when it moves, like it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sound? When the,
Yes.
the reason why is because it's made of paper mache.
Oh, I never would have gotten that.
That's crazy.
I will say I don't think he ever mentioned that in the movie, so
Right.
I'm not aware of that.
Is this
My
just a
defense for that
conjecture
one.
from other people?
No. This is actual trivia.
Oh, well,
Oh my god.
I know it's actual trivia, but like, did someone who actually knows the answer to this, like, write the
Yes,
answers?
yes.
Okay, cool. Just-
Paper mache.
Paper mache.
I did not know something.
Well, the paper mache looked a lot like metal and
It
wood.
did,
It
did.
sure did.
They did
It
a
was
great
very
job.
convincing.
Very convincing.
You know what? We're impressed by the paper mache skills of Howl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
All right. Okay. What is Hal's natural hair color?
Oh,
Black.
I think it is actually
It's
black. 'Cause I
black.
think he dyes it blonde.
Yes.
That's right.
I'm happy we're doing much better than
I
thought.
thought I was literally like, we're gonna be so bad.
The first question got me nervous.
Nah, it's all good. Okay. Another true or false. True or false. Miyazaki was not originally going to direct the film.
Oh, I think that's false because I'm thinking of the movie Ponyo. No. I take that back. Ponyo was his son. I want to say false though.
He wasn't gonna direct it.
But you said it's a year 2000 something. So I remember there was a period of time when he was making films. He's like, I'm going to stop. And he never did. That's Miyazaki. I want to say my gut said no, but I'm looking at your hand and I'm like, is that where the rejection button was?
I'm gonna go with true.
I'm going to go with no.
Okay. So
Who's right?
what-
Shannon?
Kristen. Kristen guessed true.
And I guess no.
okay. So Kristen,
I was like, I feel like Maybe. So I went with that one.
All right. I should have known. I had an idea. I knew he was like that. He's done that before.
I know. I think he's coming back too, which is even funnier.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. What is the name of, what is the name of Madame Sully's dog?
Oh my god, we just watched it last night.
Oh, I know this.
Literally, it's literally the dog that she picks up and like brings.
Yeah,
it
I know.
We literally watched it last night.
I
Jen.
know. I know.
And I can
like
like hear the dog's like little.
And
I
that's
can't like.
Yeah, I can literally
Oh.
hear it and I can see it, but the name is absolutely escaping me, and I'm
I'm
bothered
so
by
mad.
it.
We
I
literally
know
watched it
this.
last
I
night.
know this answer, but I
I could
honestly
draw
don't.
you a picture of this dog. Can I get half a
not the
point? for
name.
that? Just not the yeah.
Okay, we're gonna give you
We're
that.
gonna-
We're
I don't
gonna.
know.
We don't know. What
I'm
is it again?
blanking.
Okay, so Keen.
Oh
Oh,
damn!
I kn-
You're
I knew
right.
that one.
No, I did not.
No worries.
You can press the button. We deserve it.
Okay, last two questions. Actually three. All right. Pazu is a character from another Studio Ghibli film that can be seen in this movie. What film is the character of Pazu from?
Ooh,
Where's he in?
Is it
Oh,
Spirited Away? No, that wasn't my answer.
Oh, sorry.
Take it back.
now we know
it's
it's
not.
not.
No,
Okay,
I know
now
it's
now it's on me. Now
No,
it's
I
on
actually
me.
think I know what it is, Kristen.
What is it?
It's is it Ponyo?
No,
No, I take it back. I take
No,
it back.
it's after. I'm gonna get. It's that. I think it's a cat movie, and I don't know what it's called. Ah, damn. I'm gonna take the loss.
Wait, what is it?
What is it?
It is Castle in the Sky.
Oh, I was wrong. I
Oh.
was wrong.
I didn't. We actually
I've
never seen Castle in the
We,
Sky.
we have actually never seen it either.
I have not
We've
seen
seen
Castle in the
a lot of
Sky.
other films, but not
I
that
thought
one.
we
I've never-
did.
I know of it.
No, you're thinking up on Poppy Hill.
No, I remember that one.
Oh,
No, it was what was the one where like the world goes upside down and they like float up into the air and there's a whole castle in the sky, right? Is it?
Oh, I don't know.
I-
I have not seen this one.
I don't know.
Maybe.
So, you know, this is okay. I got this one wrong because I did not.
You know, all four of us don't know, so I feel okay with this loss.
We're not very confident.
Yeah. Now we're gonna add it to the list.
I will.
I'm adding this to our list.
this one is multiple choice.
Oh,
Ooh,
thank
okay.
goodness.
Okay.
Right. Miyazaki uses flying in many of his movies, though what is flying a metaphor for? Is it A, confidence, B, independence, C, imagination, or D, all of the above?
I kind of want to say all the above.
I can see it being.
I could
What was
see
the
it.
first one again?
Confidence.
Yeah, I'm gonna say all the above.
I'm gonna say all the above.
Yeah.
Yay!
We do our own jingle.
Like, hey!
All right, last question. What country is Sophie's hometown modeled after?
It's in
France and
it-
Germany. Isn't it
well,
kind
no,
of a blend
it's,
of France?
it's French. It's in France and something with a C, and I'm blanking on the C. I think.
Do we need to be
So
specific?
can I just
No,
say
no, no,
the
no.
same?
You can just name the country. It doesn't have to be the city.
Okay, then France. France.
France.
Yay.
All
I
right.
didn't know it was
excited.
French. Yeah.
Well, you guys did pretty well. I would say that's a win overall.
Yes! I think I'm more than 50.
Can we cut out the parts that we didn't get it?
It's really
So we got
good.
100.
Great. So without so that was fun. So getting into our topic for today. Again, we are discussing House Moving Castle, and we have a couple of questions we want to ask you guys as far as it pertains to the discussion and kind of like our main theme. And our main theme is
Family.
family. That's right. And Miyazaki said he had like kind of like a different message as far as like, you know, your life is worth living no matter the circumstances. But really in this film, Sophie like finds a new family. Like it's not the traditional family, but family, you can kind of like choose your own family in a way.
No,
Um,
I agree.
yeah.
Me too.
No, I know. I think that there's a beauty in being able to find love within other people that's not familial in that way, you know? Like I think it's really beautiful that she was able to find love with other people, because I think that she did struggle with, you know, finding confidence in herself. And I think by being surrounded by people that can build up her confidence, and she can call a family that way. So I always found that like really beautiful in Howls, in particular, to see her sort of grow in that sense.
Beautifully said.
I love the movie.
And we kind of see Sophie in the beginning of the film. She's very complacent where she is, and it feels like she doesn't have a lot of the confidence. She doesn't want to go out when her a friend invites her at the bakery shop, and she's just, I'm just gonna work in the hat shop, and oh, I like this, and oh, it's not a bother. It's I'm fine. And when confronted like by the guards, she doesn't know what to do. And again, that comes from that low self-confidence. But we see kind of that rise, throughout the different, arcs in the film.
No, I know. I think that, and even the spell that gets casted on her, it's really a reflection of how she views herself.
Yes.
Like there's this, it's a really like, it's poetic. It is very poetic because, she really like has very low confidence in herself. And, this sort of spell that gets casted on her, and I don't want to say that like, being old isn't beautiful. Like I just want to like clarify like when I'm talking about this, but she doesn't believe in herself in the sense of like, she sees herself as this older woman who doesn't like, really like care about the world or like the things that are around her. And I think that, when this happens, and to be honest, which is so fascinating in the film that I've always found really interesting, is like, I feel like when she first gets casted, she looks very old, like she's like very, very decrepit and old in this film.
Yeah.
But as the movie progresses, she gets slightly younger. Like you start to see these little moments in her that she starts to believe in herself and this confidence in herself, that it starts to, even like when she's quote unquote old, she looks younger than she did in the first moment that she was, turned into this older woman. And I found that like you just like to see those like little like details that Miyazaki put into that film to kind of show that progression of her confidence in herself and the love that she started to give towards herself was really well done.
Yeah. And honestly, I'll say this, I think that's also the reason why we watch it so many times. It's like those little details of like Miyazaki, he's so detail oriented in not only his story, like his storyline, obviously, since I know this was obviously mentioned earlier, this is based off of a book, but it's like very loosely based off of a book. But what's so beautiful is like the animation style and the way that the whole scene is portrayed. It's like every time you watch it, you learn something. And like when I first watched it, I like noticed that she seemed younger, but I never understood the meaning behind it until I've gotten older. And it's like this beautiful, like we said, poetic message of like believing in yourself, growing the confidence to like speak up and like understand your truth and like, find love within other people and yourself. Like I think what you said earlier, where it's kind of a turning point in the movie, is like when she is in that alleyway with those two, soldiers, and Howl, my favorite scene, like finds in, swoops in, like the shining, oh, he's so great. We love Howl. He like comes in and, he's just like, oh, I've been looking for you. And that's something that was just like, you think, when you first watch it, like, oh, he's just helping her out. But that full circle moment as you're watching this movie, that meant more than you realize. And when I continue watching this movie, I realize these interactions between Howl and Sophie and all the other characters in between, there's a lot more meaning than you realize. And I think that's why I love rewatching it so much.
Yeah, so good.
That is, and Rebecca, you actually going that to what you two have said again, with her getting like progressively like younger looking as her confidence builds. That's something that when I watched it for the first time, I didn't understand either. I thought it was just, oh well, okay, for intermittently she's not that old and she's not as hunched over, but you see it when she's asleep, she's young. And as her confidence builds, you see her, okay, she's younger. And then I guess when she reverts to her older self, her confidence is kind of like diminished, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's her self-esteem that is really, really down in the dumps. She even says, I think at some point, well, Sophie, at least your clothes match who you are now
Yes.
that you're old. And I was like,
Yep.
oh, okay, interesting. Because that's how
And
she
even
saw
like
herself.
Exactly. And I think even like in this one of our most iconic scenes where she meets Hal for the first time, her sister like pretty much is like, oh my God, like if that was Hal, he would steal your heart. And she even says like he's only with pretty people, like as if she doesn't see the value in herself and like how beautiful that she is. So that always like killed me when she said that. I was like, no, it's like, no, you guys gotta be together. And then the film, continues.
Yeah, but I think what's beautiful about that, I think that Sophie is obviously I think every character is pretty relatable in their own way. But with Sophie, it's like, who hasn't gotten down on themselves? Your name means
Right.
that it's the people around, the people that you decide to surround yourself with who help you see the beauty in yourself. Throughout the film, Howell has always seen her as a beautiful woman, and like no matter what age she was, like he always, like he even says like, Sophie, you're beautiful at one moment, and she reverts back because she doesn't believe him. Do you know what I mean? And it's like one of those beautiful moments though at the same time where it's like he means it, and you as a person need to believe it too. You don't need to have external validation from other people. But throughout the film, she's starting to have the confidence as she's talking to Howell, talking to Calcifer, and Mark and Markle and everyone else, that like she's having more experiences, since her whole life at this point was the hat shop, and she isolated herself and wasn't viewing the world. And when she joined Howell's world, from one click in the door, she's in a seaside, she's traveling, going to new places and seeing this whole new world that's built her confidence. And I just think it's such a beautiful like character she is, because I think everyone can relate to her no matter what point in their life that they're in. Like who hasn't been a little upset with themselves? I know I have.
I know. And even in the movie itself, like if you think about each character in general, like they're all technically in all different forms of life. We have Marco, who's a kid, then we have obviously Hal and Sophie, which I would say is like, the middle aged, still young, but still middle aged. And then we have, the Wicked Witch of the West, you know what I mean? The waste, or, like we have all these sort of moments in time and how you kind of reflect on each person and how they handle life and how they sort of continue to move forward with that.
What's interesting is that they're kind of like a different sin, which is interesting. With like with the Witch of the Waste, she's greed. With like, with Howell, he is vain.
So
he
vain.
is.
Oh,
but,
yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
That one scene.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. With him in his hair, he looks great. Yeah. And that's what I felt bad for Sophie, when she was just like, you've
So
always been
frustrated.
beautiful. And I feel like that's such a frustrating point to be in when you're trying to console someone and you're like, you don't even realize how good you have it. Like that's like a frustrating moment for her. And I think with Howell, it's also a slap in the face, but also a mirror for him to be like, you're right. You know what I mean? Which I think is cool.
I think it was like a really like for his, I mean, granted, it's kind of a funny scene, like as a viewer, but at the same time, we're also kind of getting the insight of Howell and his mental state of kind of understanding like where his insecurities really lie. He really just values this sort of like validation and these sort of feelings that will never actually give him the love that he actually wants. Like it's a very sort of surface level thing, but at the same time, like I think that was a moment for him to just kind of like, Howell, stop it.
But I also think those moments help Sophie gain confidence, because like here's the thing, before she got to understand Howell, she hears these rumors about this man who only goes for beautiful women. He has this amazing, luxurious life, like the most, like people kind of glorified this man. She gets to go into his home and realize he's just a human being like anyone else.
He has insecurities just
like
he
has insecurities, she has insecurities, and I think like there's like more meaning behind like them getting to know one another and heal each other's wounds in their own way, which is really fascinating. And why this is such a beautiful romantic movie, and I rewatch it all the time, since I feel like every time I watch it, I learn something every time. You know, like it's not just this beautiful love story between Howell and Sophie. There's so many different dynamics that you overlook, and when you rewatch it, you're like you said earlier with the sister, or not the sister, I should say, but how she feels old, like, oh, now your clothes fit you. Hearing those comments for the second time or like the third time, you're like, wow, like no wonder why she's felt this way. You know what I mean? Like this makes a lot of sense. Like it's those little moments that help you understand the character a bit deeper. It's not just this animated film. It's much more relatable, as human beings watching, a movie unfold.
Yeah. I think that's why too it's so important for us to be in community and to be in relationship with other people, is because, iron sharpens iron, and we make each other better by being in community. If we're acting very vain like Howl and just melting into a green glob, someone can come along and say, okay, we tried the consoling. Now we're just going to pick you up off your butt and we're going to put you in the bath and it'll be fine. Come on, let's go.
Yeah, let's
You
do
need
this.
someone to be able to
tough
do that.
love.
Yeah, exactly. And you
Gotta
need
give them the
someone,
tough love.
yeah. And you need someone to say, no, but you are beautiful. Like, you're someone to encourage and someone to just live life with. That's so important. And not to just, like Sophie was doing in the beginning of the movie, staying behind closed doors and really closing off her heart to everyone, because she had community in the hat shop, but she didn't go out with them to experience their lives together. So she didn't invest in their lives. They tried to invest in hers, but she wouldn't allow it. And it was really, really sad.
It was, honestly, it was. But I think that's what was beautiful about the movie. It's the lesson of, getting out of your comfort zone. I think that's like, even with us, like with travel, it's like always that mindset of like, getting yourself out of that hat shop. It's just like, I feel those days where I'm like, lazing around. I feel like, I'm like, oh, I feel so sluggish or old or whatever the insecurity you may have. But like going out and experiencing, having conversations with people, it really, helps you. And I think the adventure she had with Howl and understanding him, and even like I'd love to even talk about Calcifer and their dynamic too, because Calcifer was honestly our favorite character.
Oh my God.
I know we've been highlighting Sophie and obviously Howl so much, but the side characters to me make such a movie like a make or break, in my opinion. Like the main story is always beautiful, but the side characters are the ones that are the pillars behind the main story. And
I would see Calcifer as one of the main. He is a huge part of who Howl is. Spoiler.
he's his heart.
Right.
Spoiler
But,
if you haven't seen it.
But I just find Calcifer like this, he's the comic relief, really, storyline, because these things are like, granted, Miyazaki obviously creates these very beautiful scenes and movies and things like that, but at the end of the day, they can be very heavy, like the way that the story can be told. So these characters help with lightening these sort of situations that can be really dark. And I think that Calcifer does a fantastic job with, having these sort of dynamics and these conversations with the characters
and in her
around
own
him.
way call out the flaws that are, talking about. Like, when he's like, drowning, he's like, dude, you're about to like, kill me. Like, get up. Like any piece of work. Or like when Sophie, is trying to clean up, she's like, Sophie, stop. Like, just these little interactions and stuff like that. He's funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with her attitude of just being like, suck it up. Like, it's just, it's funny hearing those kinds of things. I don't know. I love
it's
Calcifer.
Very familial. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like
very
sort
much
of
like a
like,
family.
like it's like her talking to her like brother, like son, just being like, stop it, like, you'll be fine, like whatever it may be,
But no,
Yeah,
we love
that's a good point.
Calcifer.
Yeah. Good to see that open and honest communication. Because I think so many times, even with our families, sometimes we're not true to who we are and we don't say what we actually think and mean. And you can't have honest relationships if you don't communicate well. And yeah, I think the conversation between all of the characters are so open and honest, just like exactly what they think. They're saying it, and that's really important.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
So get into kind of like a bit of the aesthetics of the film. Again, when we're talking about the beautiful animation and just all the detail that goes into Miyazaki films, with having been to many countries, Japan and all around, what are some of the things that you think influenced these films, as A House Moving Castle in particular, with the settings, the architecture, and all of that?
Actually, it's funny because you kind of highlighted it in the quiz that we had.
Right.
It's actually probably one of the films that I would say isn't as like Japan based, that it gets inspired by. It's actually very European.
Yeah.
And as we even mentioned earlier in this episode, is that we studied abroad in Italy, and obviously there's a lot of, we have a lot of understanding of like European architect and culture. And that film is very French and very German as well. And it has a lot of those sort of undertones of the structure of the houses, the way that like
the color
tone, the cobblestone, like it's
the markets, like
like they do a really good job with highlighting that sort of European feel to it, but also having that like tinge of that Miyazaki touch of that creativity of the way that, the buses look, or the airplanes. He always has
The
this
way the
touch
food
of,
is cooked.
you
You
know what I mean?
can't
Like,
beat that in any
oh my
anime.
God.
It makes
Oh,
you
I
hungry every
know.
time.
every time,
Every time.
But I think he always has a slight touch of, like, especially that film, I would say, is very European, has that French background, but there'll always be a little touch of his, sort of creativity
Flavor.
and flair to it, just by, being who he is.
Yeah. But I will say, for most anime films or shows, what was really cool when we went to Japan, I know it's a little cliche to say this, but like any show I've watched and it's like, let's say it's based in Japan. Obviously, this Miyazaki film isn't really in Japan. I agree with you. It's much more French and German. But like, I remember walking the streets of, like, Tokyo, and I was like, this literally is an anime. Like, they literally to a T. It's like, it's very, very similar. So it's cool to see that different mediums in anime really can portray different areas around the world, which is so cool, that Miyazaki does a really cool blend of having his flair, but also other areas that we can even relate to outside of Japan, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's funny is I've never really thought about the European influence of Howl's Moving Castle, but you're right. I mean, it's very European. I mean, the way that they're all dressed,
Exactly.
everything about it. Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, me too. I just thought I think it's something about it. It's like romantic in its own way, that era, and I think that he does that intentionally, like
He
there's
romanticizes
like
everything.
but that's what's the beauty of his films. It's that he puts this romantic view of wherever the setting is, and it's just, I think that makes you fall more in love with the scene and the movie, is because of how he draws it and how he illustrates.
I think
the
he
story.
just creates a simple moment to be so like
elegant.
Yeah, like, like you're saying, like cooking, like things like that. Like, he just creates those little moments that, like, you like almost like don't realize they're happening. It's so natural in these films that you're like, yeah, like she's just taking out the laundry, or she's just cooking these eggs. But it's like you realize, like, the
Those
sort of
moments are
detail,
beautiful.
yeah, those little details of, like, cracking the egg on the side, the steam, the sounds that those sort of things make. Like, Miyazaki highlights those so well by, like, creating those beautiful scenes in all of his films.
They're
not just
intimate
Howl's.
moments that you can only get when you're with somebody, like alone, or like like day to day, and Miyazaki puts you in that world with that character, like very intimately.
I think that's where you find the connection even more within his films, and that's why you like fall in love with Sophie and Howl and everyone that you sort of interact with in the film.
Being in Howl's castle, I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm in there with them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I hadn't thought about that in that way for really all of Miyazaki's films. Yeah. It's like you're just living life with these characters and there's like fantastical things happening around them. But yeah, you still get to experience the sort of mundane living life. And yeah, there's a fun connection there that way with the characters.
And not just Miyazaki and over, not specifically just his films, but I think in any anime, which I'm not trying to dog Western animation, but anime gives a much deeper relational feel. I mean, even slice of life, and there's just a much more emotional impact, I feel, that comes from anime, especially in House Moving Castle, and just the attention to detail that they take the time to evoke whatever emotion that they want to evoke from its audience.
Oh, definitely.
I agree. I feel like with American media sometimes, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the demographic they're always aiming for is very younger. When it comes to Miyazaki, he's doing all ages. Like, as an adult, you can appreciate it. There's adult undertones, but when we watched it, we were like young kids, and I still could appreciate the film, and that's a successful movie, obviously. I think all ages can enjoy it.
Exactly. I think something like, as a child, or like when you're younger watching, let's say, House of Castle, you're enamored by the colors, the detail, like the little things that, like, again, it's almost subconscious that you're so drawn to it. But then as you get older watching this film again, you start to really dive into the subconscious of the characters and all these other things that, like, and someone older can really grasp, like, oh wow, like that was like a lot deeper than just,
And now with all the life experience, I'm just like, I feel you, Sophie, and I feel you, Howl. Like, it's one of those things. But again, I think that's the whole theme of, like, when I jokingly say I've seen it 500 times, it's because different periods of my life I've experienced different things, and that movie still touches upon it, which makes it timeless to me. Like, that's why I feel like it's, well, I mean, I think any Miyazaki film does this very, very well. It's not just Howl's. we love Howl. We just love him so much. It's hard not to fall in love with him too, like all the other ladies in the movie. But it's a film that to me really made me fall in love with anime, to be totally honest. Like the Ghibli studio, that's what kind of got us into this whole world of anime. So I'm very grateful to these movies for opening our minds to it, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I think I mean, I used to be this way. I was very closed off to anything that had to do with anime for a long time. I was like, I mean, I care more about like European history. I don't really care about Eastern history and all of those types of things. Some of my friends, a lot of my friends growing up in like high school, they were really interested in anime, and I was like, it's whatever, it's fine. And then oh my gosh, it wasn't until like 2011. Is that right? Yeah, I think no, it was past that. It was past that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. That one of my friends was watching, I think it was Attack on Titan, and right, so good. I was like, oh, actually, this is pretty good. And so then it was like little by little getting into the rest of anime, and then I met Josh, and it was like it just exploded.
Yeah.
And the both of us, that's like most of what we watch now is just anime. So funny.
I love that. Oh my God. I'll say this though. When I recommend anime to like new anime watchers, you have to be so careful because there's a spectrum. Like, and I talk about this a lot actually, where I'm like, it can turn you off, or like, you know what it's I shouldn't even say turn off. You have to get to an understanding of the humor of anime to appreciate the little bit more obscure ones, because the obscure ones are actually wonderful, but I feel like you need to like go through the tame stuff to understand the humor of like with the One Punch Man, we talked about this, is that like I feel like I only find it as humorous as I have is because of all the anime I've watched before. It's like trolling itself in its own way with like the shonen genre of like, fighting scenes, and like it's hilarious.
They make it ridiculous.
They make it ridiculous
because
and these
it
narratives,
can be that way.
because it can be, but it's funny where all these people have these crazy narratives like you would get in like a shonen, like a Naruto, where they tell you the whole thing and then they go through this whole fight scene. He does this whole spiel and then One Punch gets him in one go.
And you're sitting there like,
you're cracking up. But that's what I love about that show, is that I've watched so many up to that point that I can appreciate humor like that, So when it comes to anime, it's one of those things that I'm always like, I feel like for me though, I think a safe one's always Demon Slayer. I'm like, you're gonna love
Honestly,
Demon
I think
Slayer.
Attack on Titan is a great starter one because it's so like, I love the fact of it's just like, first of all, the animation style is stunning. And I just love like it's so beautiful. It's actually funny because that was a pandemic watch for us.
Yes, I did.
It was a show at first. Yeah, so it's very actually kind of new for us. But like, because when I first saw it, I was like, naked giants. Naked giant thing. I was like, this doesn't really look like a thing I'm really
different,
enjoy. Yeah. But at the time when the pandemic hit, I think it was like the last season was gonna come about or something. And I was like, you know what, Shine, we got time now that the pandemic is hit. We're stuck inside. Let's watch this show. And
unbelievable.
Holy crap, it was unbelievable. And that is probably a show that if someone's never watched it, that would probably be the show that I would recommend. I'd be like, watch Attack on Titan.
I say Attack on Titan or Demon Slayer, because Demon Slayer is just so wonderful. But Attack on Titan, I think, could be universal for people who aren't really versed in anime. Like it kind of gives me, I mean, not particular, but just in general, it kind of gives me like Game of Thrones, where it's like you can really relate to like a really dark like storyline. Like you can appreciate it as an adult because it's very violent. I'm not saying it's Game of Thrones at all, but I'm saying if you like Game of Thrones violence and all that stuff, like Attack on Titan is like worse to me. I was like, I think Attack on Titan is worse.
I just people don't realize, like when we were talking about shows, like I evoked so much emotion from Attack on Titan.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
I had nightmares.
I was like, wow, like these naked things, I'm very petrified.
But it's great. Sorry, we went on a tangent there. But
no worries.
No, that's good. Yeah,
I feel you on like starting certain shows and recommending those things.
Yeah, what's funny is the very first anime that I actually saw was a Miyazaki film. It was Spirited Away.
Yes.
And it kind of freaked me out because it was the very first one I've ever seen. And it's like, I think Spirited Away, definitely not one you should start with if you're new on your anime journey. I feel like you do have to understand more about Japanese culture and religion because it has a lot to do with that. And So that's definitely a little
No.
later on in your anime watching.
Yeah. No, I definitely could see that
Yeah.
as being interesting because
I forget
this
that
is a lot.
sometimes, to be totally honest,
Yeah.
because I'm so in love with these films that when I introduce them to my friends, I watch it in their lens. Like I'm kind of observing their body language, and I realize, like, you're right, that scene is a little weird for someone who's never watched anime. Do you know what I mean? And
Or
like,
like understanding.
or understand that. So like I kind of get a lesson every time I introduce it to somebody. I'm like, oh, that I guess that could be weird. Like you're right. Like that one guy with the
No face.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
face.
no, I was like,
face.
oh, with
Yes.
no face. I'm like, you're right. He's kind of creepy, but I thought he was kind of cute too. I can understand the appeal sometimes.
Yeah, like the that sort of.
But I will say that
boundary.
when we recommend Howls, that's actually a universal.
Yeah.
I
People
think that's
really
a good
like
one.
Howls. Howls people really like when we recommend that one.
Yeah.
That
That's always
makes a
been
lot
a
of
way.
sense because of, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with it is very European in nature, and particularly as
There's
Americans,
familiarity.
it's much more
Definitely.
familiar than anything that's Eastern culture, because that's pretty foreign to us.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are in the country, if you're on the West Coast, it's a little different, I think.
True.
But
I agree with
I didn't
I
that.
know
haven't
about
ever
that.
lived
That's
there,
very true.
so I'm not
Same.
sure.
New Yorkers forever. So
Wow, that's definitely on the other side of the country
Right,
for you
yeah.
guys.
literal
Yes,
opposite.
very far.
And with Howl's Moving Castle, just having so many elements and so many characters that are relatable. I know that you guys already said that Calcifer is your favorite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, I love that little fireball.
Literal
He is
fireball.
adorable. Literal fireball.
fireball.
I love the fact. I think what I love about Calcifer in general is that full circle moment that he isn't just this little fireball. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're kind of like he's
He's
a
a
sort of
falling
character.
star.
That's what I mean. Like again, spoilers for anyone who has not seen this film, but
It was out when 2007.
yeah.
Again.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, your fault.
Your
Yeah.
fault. It's been out for a while.
It's been out for a while.
Right, yeah.
But I think I love the fact that that was a full circle moment. Like when you realize like Calcifer isn't just this like, magical thing that's in his home. Like it's literally Calcifer's heart and like that bond that they shared.
Howl's heart. Sorry.
That they share together. The fact that when he was a child, he gave him his heart, which is so fascinating because Calcifer was like, which is actually interesting because I ended up reading this beforehand because I was like so curious as to like, because they don't really go as in depth with their relationship as like you hope in the film, but in the book they actually explained the fact that Howl didn't want the star to die, so he wanted to give him his heart to be able to live a little bit longer. So it was actually like again a child being like, I don't like he thought that the falling star was hurt because he fell from the sky,
Yeah.
which is so cute. And like so he had this interaction and be like, I don't want you to die, take my heart. And in return Calcifer was like, well, I'll give you this power. You know what I mean? And there's this like sort of bond that they have with each other because of this. And it's like, you don't get to see that as much in the film, but you see that little moment in the film of when he does give his heart to Calcifer.
But it's also kind of beautiful again at the end. Again, sorry, spoiler, but it's like, when they finally part, he comes back though, because they're a family. Like that's what I think is so beautiful, is that like he's chosen that, like, regardless of all the funny banter, like, let me break my curse, like I'm done. I want to get away with hot. Yeah. Like I'm done making your bath hot and like fixing this house. But he comes back because they have that beautiful bond together.
Yes,
and
there
it's like
is
you
love.
mentioned the theme of family, which is so beautiful.
Yeah. And he chooses to be in Howl's life and to be
Right.
a part of his family,
Yeah.
which is so beautiful.
I love Calcifer.
I know. So shout out to Calcifer.
Shout out Calcifer, you little fireball.
You little fire demon.
And just for you to know, and our audience expects spoilers. It's hard not to have a
yeah.
discussion
I
and an
know.
analysis without spoilers. So we should have said this beforehand, that you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Apologies.
feel like you
about
won't
that.
go into this if you haven't watched it. Like
Yeah.
Howls is pretty
Right.
iconic. If you like Howls, I'm sure you're gonna listen to this.
Yeah, no, definitely spoilers alert, but also shame on you for not watching it if you haven't.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that you guys went into more detail about that and that little nugget of information. I did wonder, like, why did he give him his
Yeah.
heart? Like, what was the exchange there? Why did that even happen? So it's really interesting to hear that it's because it was just like an innocent little kid. Just want, I don't want you to die because you fell from the
Yeah.
sky. And
I know, it's so
that's really
cute.
cool.
It's like little baby Howl.
But it's interesting, and that's like a character development for Howell, his innocence, and how he's like
Yeah.
kind of been jaded by the war too. Do you know what I mean? He like he's getting
Yeah.
back that innocence. Do you know what I mean? Like when he like is when the curse is broken, he finds his love for himself and the world again, since he was jaded by everything. So it's a real full circle moment watching him, being this innocent kid exploring the world, like being, having Calcifer, then taking his heart and slowly losing his humanity throughout the craziness of the world. And then, it's just cool. I really love, there's so many messages. That's why we watched 100 times.
It's
So many messages.
Yeah, I'm looking back at my notes, and the war is really interesting to me. That
Yes.
first of all,
Yeah,
it wasn't in the book apparently, but then they
No.
did put it in the movie, and yeah, that it adds another layer, I think, to
Yeah.
what all is going on, and helps to. It's like it's interesting that when I've watched it previously, that didn't like really that wasn't really highlighted to me. I didn't notice that it was really like a war going on and he was being summoned. It just all kind of happened as I was watching the movie. I'm like, okay, cool, we accept this.
Yes.
But yeah, it is really interesting that the war was on. And one of the things that stood out to me were when Howl went into the war, when there were those planes that were like literally like pooping out like whatever they were, the bird.
Yeah.
The bird people.
Definitely a Miyazaki touch on that one.
Yeah.
That's not European influence.
No. Yeah, exactly. But I think Calcifer and Howl were having a conversation about it later. And they were apparently, those things were wizards who had turned themselves into these creatures to fight the war, but they'll never be able to turn back into humans. And that Howl was like, they're going to regret that. And by the end of the war, he said, by the end of the war, they will even forget that they were even human to begin with, all for the sake of this big war. That what does it mean? Ultimately, we find out it meant nothing. It was meaningless, absolutely meaningless. And
It's funny you bring that up though, if you don't mind me, because it's funny that you mentioned that, because I also was fascinated by that as well. And something that you actually brought up, which I'm really glad you did, I think in the quiz, is that Miyazaki has a lot of themes in his movie. And with Howl, he actually represents independence. So it's really interesting about this war is that like, it's actually the symbolic meaning of how people, are told what to do and they follow that, but they lose themselves in the process. And Howl's the only one who kind of rejects that idea. He wants to be himself continuously, but he's losing himself in it, trying to figure out what that means for him. And with Miyazaki and this whole, the family, being together and whatnot, it's a redefining of what happiness is, what his independence is. And I thought that was really interesting. And again, another little Miyazaki twist in his storyline, but I thought that was super fascinating, that it's like so again relatable as human beings, that it's just like you think about your life and where you're going with life, and sometimes people give you this direction where you're like, you should do this and this, listen to this and this is the way to find your happiness. But like Miyazaki says, your happiness is how you define your life. You can define however you want, find your own path. There's no right way to do anything. It's how whatever makes you happy. And with Howl is being with Sophie, it was adventuring. It was this war that was really meant nothing. You know what I mean? It's like he was trying to take it on himself, but it was too overwhelming. He needed to kind of lose himself a little bit to find himself again, which I thought was a really cool message too, which I didn't know if you were getting to that point, but I was really excited when he mentioned it.
I wasn't going to go that far, but yeah, that is really interesting, that he would need to kind of lose himself in a way. And in order to find himself, I think we all have to do that. You have to go like too far, almost not too far, but you have to go a little too far to realize, oh, that's not where I want to be. I actually want to be back over here. So yeah, wow. It was good.
It was interesting that he would add like that sort of touch. It's like to derail from that sort of part of the book. And I think if I know this correctly, and like someone fact check me, please, but I'm actually pretty positive that Miyazaki during that time, he was actually against the war that was going on. And that's why he was kind of wanting to like highlight that. And that's why he ended up adding it in the film, because he was very mad, if I'm correct, about the Afghanistan war. And so he was upset by that and kind of wanted to, again, show that sort of message about like, you know, what is this war? Like, what are we fighting for? Like, what is going on here? So I think, and again, like, you know, he has these sort of like, again, this like romantic moments between Sophie and, you know, Howl, but there's this sort of like
dark undertones.
That's what I mean. I'm like, Miyazaki, what are you doing?
No, but it's good.
No,
that's what makes it beautiful.
But he definitely like has a sort of undertones of like understanding of like what that, you know, kind of affects everyone else and like the people around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another one of the things I want to touch on, just briefly, is the character of Turnip Head.
I love that guy.
He's the first person that lends a helping hand to Sophie, and he kind of like just pops in and out of the movie here and there, but the driving force behind, I think, this movie is, again, within family, is just having that loving connection with each other. And again, so love is another driving force behind this movie. And it is cliche in the end where Turnip Head, turns into a prince because of the act of true love, true love's kiss. And I'm like, I'm not mad about that one in this instance.
I'm not mad about it either.
No, I thought the thing is, I still like that was a true love's kiss, but Sophie
Right.
still picks Howl. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like she picked her own happiness, regardless of like getting the prince in some way. Like,
Correct.
the prince, you know what it is? I really appreciated the consent of the prince. He's like, it's okay, Sophie, you like someone else. Like, he didn't make a big fuss about it.
Yeah, it was very just like,
it was very adult reaction, which I appreciated. I think he's just probably relieved he's a man again.
Yeah, not a scarecrow.
Exactly.
Yeah, too bad Gaston and Beauty and the Beast didn't have that reaction. That would have been a whole different. Yeah.
That would have been a completely different film.
It would have been.
Very.
We need more turnip heads in the world.
Apparently.
Mhm.
Let me see. Okay.
I know. I need to check my notes. I haven't read any of my notes recently.
Yeah, because we touched upon a lot, like, we did Sophie's Confidence, we did Calcifer, we did, I think we've touched on a lot of family points, being our main theme.
Well, I love.
Go ahead.
Can I? Okay, thanks. I love too how Sophie, she has this really rough and hard exterior and closed herself off, like we had talked about. It's kind of in the beginning of this. But yet she is also so open. She just
So cute. I love it.
her little tail is like whacking against the sounds like someone's knocking.
I thought for a second it was knock. I was like, I feel that our cat was meowing earlier. So she's like, hold on a second.
So funny. What was I even saying? I was talking about Sophie. Oh, she's so open. Yeah. So she's like hard exterior, closed herself off, but she also is very open and forgiving and understanding of the other characters. I'm thinking very specifically about the Witch of the Waste. It is the Waste, right? Not the West.
Yeah. No,
you're
right.
It's the I was,
okay.
thinking the Wizard of Oz, and I was like, no, it's a different movie.
Yeah, it's the Waste.
The Waste.
Yes. So she, I mean, she starts off the movie, you think she's the villain. And
yeah, I did too.
In a way, she kind of is, but it's more of like she's her own thing. But you think that she's the villain, and then and Sophie definitely thinks so, because the Witch of the Waste is the one who puts the curse on her in the first place. And but then as they're traveling up the steps to go see the king, the emperor, whoever he is, and she's like, I'm gonna beat you first, and she tries to get up there, and then she's like, oh, come on, you can do it, like, let's go. And she starts trying to like get her to do, go up the stairs. You can do it. Encouragement. There we go. gosh, that word's not coming.
I love it.
Yeah, so she just gave her a lot of encouragement, and then in the end, when her magic is taken away, she ends up taking her back to Howl's castle. And it's like, wow, such compassion for someone who you just not that long ago hated because she was the one who cast the spell. And I just thought that was really interesting and a great testament to Sophie's character.
I think she has a lot of empathy in general.
Yeah.
Like, granted,
That's
like,
the
you know,
right word.
she's like, you know, I think in her family, I think she's the oldest sister. So she has this sort of like, you know, I feel like that sort of role when she either interacts with a lot of people, feeling like, you know, she has to take care of people and things like that. And I think that she does have a lot of empathy, you know, like,
but I'll say this, I was very impressed. You're right. It says a lot about her character. If someone cursed me like that, I'd be like, you can take as long as you want on those stairs. That's not very nice of me. But like the thing is, but I feel like I was a little inspired when I saw that, because I thought the same when I first saw that film. I was actually surprised that there was no anger or hatred in their interaction. It was very civil, but in a way that there was still empathy and compassion for this woman, regardless of what she's done to her. And you're very right, though, because of her role in her own family, you can see that's how she interacts with everyone else, with such kindness. And I think in its own way, though, the Witch of the Waste, you know, when she brought her back into Howl's home, she's now an observer in the House of Howls, and now she's also getting her own little humanity back, watching her being so kind to her, seeing her and Howl interact, and even the kid with her, with like Markle, and like, you know, she's kind of now a grandmother in her own way. Like, she's having a second life in her own little family. And regardless, I know how it pans out, she's trying to eat his heart, and that's a whole nother thing we can unpack. But I thought it was an interesting dynamic. I'm with you on that, where when I first watched it, I was confused because I don't know if I would have that kind of empathy, and I consider myself a kind person, but I thought it was really like, big of Sophie to do that.
I agree, because like I feel like as a viewer, you don't blame Sophie if she was not nice to her. You'd be like, like, walk the stairs your own, girl. Like, no encouragement for me. But I think
when she gets her powers taken away, I wasn't upset. I was like, that's your karma for being awful to so many people, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I felt.
No, I know. But and
so
honestly,
mean.
I think Sophie is a great character to like learn from in that, especially in that moment.
Because she's relatable. You know, like, she's not only kind, but she has insecurities too. She puts herself down, even though she helps others to bring them up.
But I think she also like had that realization that, like, because obviously the Witch of the Waste has been yearning to be invited to this estate, you know, and I think that Sophie acknowledged that, and the fact that that was taken away, like, it was a trick, obviously, like, that she got the invitation. And Sophie, knowing, like, you know, she got, you know, cursed and other stuff, like, she can empathize with her. She's like, you know, you bring these people here, and like, you know, she was so, you know, honored, but in reality, it was just a facade, you know. So I think that in that moment, she made her more human, you know.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point. I think the whole movie really kind of does that. We have these perceptions of people and what we think they're like, or what other people say they're like, and then you actually get to know them, and there's someone different, there's someone more complex, and that's inviting, you know.
Yeah. And I think that I found out in that moment that the real villain in its own way was kind of that queen. I guess you call her a queen or something.
I
I
think
don't
she
know.
was
the main wizard.
I don't think she was a queen.
Yeah.
She's
Whatever.
not.
She was she was Howl's.
She's Howl's teacher, technically. For like,
he was her last apprentice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I know for her, I considered her the real villain, because she had a whole facade, and like, she was the one really backing up this whole war. Like, the king was kind of a fool in his own way, and he's joking around, but she's the one making the moves. You know what I mean? Like, she's the one, you know, having all these wizards and witches like lose their humanity for what? Do you know what I mean? Like, she's the real, you know, mastermind behind all these awful acts. And the Witch of the Waste is just sadly a byproduct of a lot of the things that she started, you know, if you think about it.
Like, greed is just the thing that destroyed her, and like, it became, and that's why she became the way that she was, is because she was consumed by that demon, you know. Which is like, you know, again, it's not like her, I would say, like, fault. She just got consumed by it, you know.
And Howl almost did, but thank you, Sophie.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie,
for saving our man Howl.
Yeah, it makes a difference when you have people who love you and can pull you out of that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Sure.
Super important to know. And again, as always, Miyazaki's given us the life lessons left and right in that film.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love how too the Witch of the Waste, when she comes to live in Howl's castle, she like you were saying earlier, she kind of comes into her own. She has a new life, kind of grandmotherly in a way, but she actually ends up helping other people instead of hurting them. And even she was the one who found the little, I don't know, slime bug thing in the bag that
Yes.
that Sophie's mom left. And
Mm-hmm.
she, of course, she almost killed Calcifer
Yeah, that
by
was the
feeding it to
other.
him. Not great, but at least she destroyed it, you know? No
Yeah.
spy.
Close. It was close.
We can't
yeah.
expect her to be an angel right
Right off the
away.
bat.
There's
Yeah.
going to be some personal growth in that journey. She can't be
Right.
perfect,
Yes.
but she's going in the right direction, which is important, which I thought
Yep.
was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was nice
I
to
feel like
see
the
that.
first
Yeah.
the first time I ever watched that film, I like hated her. Like even like during her growth, like it wasn't until I feel like we watched it several times that I could like
Find love for her.
find love and empathy in her journey, you know, because at first I was like, this woman needs to go. I was like, why is she at their house? Like,
But
this
I
is not
think that goes
great.
with maturity. Like
That's
I
what I
said,
mean,
all the
yeah.
different stages in my
My
life, and
life.
every time I've seen Howl's Moving Castle, I feel like I am understanding the characters on a different level because of my
Mhm.
maturity in life. You know, like I can
Things I've
I can
experienced.
see Sophie's view with her empathy. Like I jokingly said I would be salty earlier, but that was when I first watched that movie. I was like, why is she being nice to her? Like I was kind of on Sophie's side, but I'm realizing I shouldn't, that's not how we need
Life
to act
is.
for
There's-
other people. It's like love should be the guiding force in life in general. Like we should all show people
Because
kindness.
you don't,
We
know
what people are going through.
and that's the thing. Like you
Right.
just see, you know, the Witch of the Waste being, you know,
Who she is.
you know, putting a curse on her, but you don't know the struggles and the things that got her to the point of just doing that so easily to someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's reasons why people do what they do, and like if you take a step back and realize like, where is this anger coming from? Why are you feeling the way that you're feeling? You then start to humanize people a lot more and being like, I can understand your pain. I
Rather than
understand your
take things
struggle.
personally, like
Mhm.
Sophie didn't do that. She just like, you know, found the empathy and being like, she got this invite she's always wanted and they tricked her.
Like
That's
she was like,
awful.
how dare,
and that
like,
was a quote unquote her enemy in some way, but she didn't look at her that way. She saw her as another human
human.
being who just wanted to be included. That's all she had greed because she just wanted to be loved. Like I said, the love is like such a message too in this movie, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, I love that she just wanted to be included. She just wanted to be in the in crowd, if you will. And that was her driving force. You know, it drove her to make wrong decisions. But yeah, I think, you know, kind of like we were talking earlier about you guys being so curious and travel and all of that. I think having a curiosity with people in general to ask those questions, to find out where they're coming from, it makes all the difference in the world, where you can find the compassion and empathy for others. Yeah.
Yeah. You nailed it. That's why I love travel.
Definitely things I've learned in my path of life.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Well, I mean, gosh, we have covered like so much, and we could be here like forever.
Oh, I know.
We're having so much fun. I love this.
Yes. I feel like you can quiz me now. I think I'll pass.
Yeah. Let's go back to that quiz.
Nice. Well, I think it's time to get on to our recommendations and telling basically saying one thing we liked about the film and one thing that we maybe didn't like. Shane and Kristen, go first.
What I liked or didn't like about the film, or
Yes.
anything? What I didn't like about the okay. Something that I liked about the film is, oh, that's so tough. I love everything. I think okay, one thing that I love about the film, rewatching it a lot of times, is the fact that Howl always knew it was Sophie. Like I think that was something that like towards the end you realize that he always knew Sophie was the one that was supposed to break the curse, and I like love that again, that became that full circle moment, because like when you rewatch the film you realize the way he talks to her and the interactions they have with one another, he's always known.
He's been looking for
He's
Sophie.
been looking for Sophie.
The beautiful woman has always been Sophie.
And she never saw herself as a beautiful woman, so which is insane. Which I think that's what I loved about the film. What I didn't like about the film, that's really hard. But I guess something that I don't like about the film, I guess, I don't know, like it's tough to like war. I think it's like really difficult to like, and there's like this love-hate thing about it, because I think in war you always want to see this good and bad side, but in reality Howl was on both sides. There really wasn't a good or bad side on either one. So I think it's like really hard, and it makes it really difficult to like want to like, you know, be like, this side needs to win and this side needs to lose. But like in the reality, it's like when someone loses, it's such a
Everyone
upsetting
is.
thing. Like everyone's really losing out, like when there's a loss, you know. So I think that like war in general is just like a tough thing to like in general, I guess.
I'll say my favorite thing about the movie is I personally think I'm not going to go on a deep level. Actually, I'm going to go on the artistic side since I'm going to dissect it that way. I think the reason why I love this film so much is how beautifully is not only animated, but the scene. That's something that I love about this film is you can pause no matter what minute it is, and it's a painting. That's, I think, something when it comes to this film or any kind of Miyazaki film, every single still, every single moment is a piece of artwork. And I think about this film is just so incredible, from the message that the film is to just the artistry of how the film was made. It's a masterpiece. That's something that I think is incredible. So it's hard to say a flaw since I'm calling it a masterpiece, but the only flaw I would say is I honestly think I don't know,
Maybe, you
because
know,
I love
maybe
it so
I wish
much
that Howl was less vain.
Yeah, you know what? That one scene really made him unattractive.
I was like,
when he got upset over his hair color, I was like, you just lost a point in my book. Maybe I don't like that scene. That scene was out, but that was also pivotal. That's what's such a problem. It was pivotal too. I don't know. You know what it is? Actually, I'll take this back. One scene I wasn't a big fan of is, no, I take it back. I don't know. I like it all. I'm sorry. This is a tough question.
Yeah.
I really these hard-hitting questions. You can't do that because I actually love this movie. And when I love something, I want to refuse that it's not perfect. Like, no, it's absolutely perfect. Absolutely not. So the fault's more in me.
Yes.
One thing I really liked, again, piggybacking off of the artistic side, just all the detail, especially the castle itself, has just so many different components. It's like, okay, it's a castle. Well, it's got this, it's got that. And I really liked just the time that they took to make something that, like, well, this doesn't look like a traditional castle. And I mean, it's not. But I mean, then you have the inside, which I think is there's only like really four main rooms, I think, in the whole castle, because we have the living room, which is kind of like the kitchen. We have the bathroom, Hal's room, and then later on Sophie's room. But in a castle, you think of all these like just these humongous like different rooms and quarters and chambers, and yeah. So just like how the whole thing was just constructed, and I'll say for Hal's vein, especially because his hair is like orange, and like you just accept this person right here. With
Beautiful hair color.
I know, that's what I mean. I was like, are you serious?
Like gorgeous.
but yeah, so that's what I would say. Rebecca?
Oh, gosh. This is really hard because everything is so great.
I know.
Yeah, everything is really, really good. But Josh, when you were talking, it made me think about just the wonder that this movie evokes, and like the magic, while not being your sort of traditional what you would think of magic. But there's just something special about it, the way that he can transform the way that the castle looks. Like, that's really cool. Oh my gosh, you can just stand there with Calcifer and move the castle to look different. Wow, that's really cool. And this castle moves. It's got little legs and travels all over the place. Yeah, and I think that's my favorite part, that there's just so many wonderful things that you just go, wow.
Yes. I second that actually as well. That's so true.
Yep.
Redefining what a castle is, or like, you know, being able to identify it, like so creatively. Like I think that you even called it out with like the rooms, everything about it. Like when I think of castle, I think of like a European castle, or like, you know what I mean? Like I think Howl's castle is so unique that it is redefining.
Fun. It's more fun.
Yeah, I'm like, sign me up for Howl's. I was like, I like that one.
I think so. Yeah. Gosh, for not liking, It's really hard because everything has a purpose
Yeah.
in the movie. Nothing is
No.
like there for no reason.
Actually, you know, would be a good negative is the fact that they didn't dive deep into Calcifer and him, like their relationship in the movie.
Yeah,
That's a great point.
Good point.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a really great like background to hear a little bit more. Like I'm glad I got to learn that via
But
like,
the movie doesn't make that
the movie
clear.
does not make that clear at all. Like of like
No.
how that interaction even happened. So
But when you hear it though, what you
You're
said when
like,
that makes sense. Like, oh, now I see it in that context, but I
Yes.
didn't know it just watching it.
yeah,
though.
so I
It's true.
think that is maybe the negative.
You gave her the answer.
I
but
gave you the
I'm
answer.
gonna take that one too.
I think that's a good one.
That's a collective negative, it's fine.
Yes.
And it
There
would
we
have
go.
been really easy for them to actually
know.
add that in because she was running through the, I don't know,
Mhm.
field of his past, I guess.
Mhm.
And you could have just overheard a conversation between
I know.
him and Calcifer, and that would have solved the issue there. That would added like 5 seconds more to
I
the
know,
movie.
Yeah.
And it
We'll have
would
to write a letter to Miyazaki and be like, excuse
Right.
me.
You
Add
should
this
have
in
done
the
this.
extended version.
Yep.
Well, great. I think it goes without saying that we would all recommend this film to
Oh, yeah.
any age, really. I mean, it's
Yeah.
great for kids, it's great for adults. So definitely would recommend.
Yeah. Not anime doesn't always cover all the ages.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, no, this is very adult, or it can be adult and children.
Yeah, I think Miyazaki does a good job with all ages with his films. I think it's like, you get as a child, you get entranced by the colors, the creativity of the characters, but then the undertones of the storyline can be appreciated by adults and as old as you can be, like I think that he does a really phenomenal job with creating that entire range.
No matter what stage in life you're in, there's
Mhm.
always a message to take away from this movie, which I love about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the last things that we'll do is it is the first Friday of the month when this episode is coming out. So we are going to do What Are We Watching? Again, for those of you who have not listened to one of our episodes on the first Friday of the month, this is just where we're talking about what we're watching, what we're listening to, what we're playing, what we're reading, kind of just what's making us happy this week. So without further ado,
This is what we're watching this week.
and I know we've kind of like discussed this earlier, but I mean, with him watching a lot and reading a little bit, playing a lot of games, and my
You have.
yes, I have.
Yeah.
But with our guests, we always like to let our guests go first. So, Shane, Kristen, what are you watching, reading, playing, listening to?
Okay, watching, we kind of already spoiled it. The Spy Family.
Which is very good.
It's
also
so good.
I'm also watching the latest season of The Circle on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
have
that,
not finished it yet.
The
so
only reason, can I defend that choice? Because
Yes.
it's a reality show, so I don't
it's
like.
easy to like throw on the background and not pay attention because like
But
our
the
jobs
reason,
are.
but the reason why I like this season is because the Spice Girls are in it.
Yes.
and I love the Spice Girls.
So if you're a huge '90s baby,
you're a '92 baby like us,
yes, then
Spice Girls are there.
Spice Girls are on this season, so I recommend it. But I haven't finished it, so I do not know who won the Circle this season.
So
yet.
don't spoil it. I
Don't
think we'll
spoil it.
know by that Friday that you guys are airing
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I'll continue watching it, but that's what I'm watching.
But
as of
I
right
want
now.
to say I'm watching Spy
Spy
Family.
Family, which
Like
is really
that show
cute.
is so endearing. We did talk about it already, but I that's the show that we're kind of honestly currently watching.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Playing, I mean, I don't know. Like, no, I feel actually know what you're doing. You're crocheting.
I am crocheting.
Yeah.
I am making a blanket for my friend. They are a new homeowner, so
You're
thing I tend to
Sophie. You're an
do-
old lady.
I embody Sophie.
You're embodying Sophie.
I embody Sophie, and I am making a nice little like Afghan blanket for my friends. So that's
That's
like
really
my
cool.
activity of
You're a
of late.
crafter.
I'm a crafter.
And I watch her do these things.
That's fun too.
That's-
No?
Yeah, no, I'm in trance.
yeah. So I'd say we're pretty much like if it's an after work activity, it tends to be TV just
Watching a
because it's
show.
like a very like chill, relax sort of thing, or
And
for
you're
me,
crocheting at the same time.
Yeah. So like if I'm like the circle's easier to crochet because I'm not reading subtitles.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's probably why right now I'm watching more of the circle. But if I'm, if we're watching Spy Family, I have to be paying attention because we're reading it. So I can't do that at the same time.
Yeah. But that's what we're doing right now.
Yes. I would say those are the ones that's been on, what we're watching.
Nice.
So as far as playing, I've been going through the Uncharted series, which for those of you who don't know, again, it's like a action adventure game, and it's about this guy named Nathan Drake who teams up with a few of his friends and goes on these missions to find like these lost artifacts. And of course, there are these bad guys who have all these minions running around. They have to kill and shoot and whatnot. So I'm on Uncharted 3, which is called Drake's Deception. And then after I beat that, I'll go to Uncharted 4. I have not seen the movie. I want to finish the games before seeing Uncharted the movie.
I know.
Okay.
See the movie. I haven't played any of the games.
I've not
I'm
played
really a gamer. I mean,
Well, you played It Takes Two, but you
Yeah.
kind of had to play it with me
that was
because
fun.
I mean
It's a 2-person
yeah.
game.
It takes two. It takes two.
It takes
Yeah.
two, literally.
It literally
Yeah,
takes two.
literally does.
The only game that we play at, well, you play
I
it.
haven't been playing right now, that's why I didn't mention it, but I play Legend of Zelda. That's my go-to game. Like if I'm just like, it's a rainy Sunday or like whatever.
in the winter months.
In the
you
winter
replay.
months, if I'm playing a video game, it's usually Legend of Zelda, which the second one should be coming out, I'm thinking next year. I don't know.
They
For
keep
Breath of
changing.
the
They
Wild.
keep pushing.
They keep
the date.
pushing back this date, and I'm annoyed because I'm like, I need a new video game. So Legend of Zelda is my go-to if I were to pick a game.
I don't.
And
play.
you also
I
still
like
watch.
watching her do things.
Yes.
Clearly, I love when she plays Twilight Princess. That's one of the games for Legend of Zelda. Twilight
What's your
Princess
favorite?
is my favorite one. Like
To watch.
I want them to put it on the Switch so bad, but
I
they did
know.
Skyward Sword instead, which is another good one. But I love Twilight.
I know. I kind of want it to be on the Switch. So
Maybe we
badly.
should send Nintendo a letter.
Another
too.
person I need to
yeah,
send
Another
a
letter, yep.
An
Yeah.
Miyazaki letter and Nintendo.
Yes, I'm gonna make this happen.
As far as watching, well, I know we've been watching Spy Family again, Lisa, though, then we're watching Shield Hero. One thing that I've been watching is a new anime called The Healer Girl, and it's like a musical operatic type of show. Basically, it's about these group of 3 or 4 girls that they go to these different things happen, like there's a surgery going on, or somebody passes out and needs medical attention, and they sing to like kind of like soothe the soul and to like the right paramedics or medical attention can arrive. And I mean, yeah, it's Japanese, but the music is so soothing, and I mean, I really enjoy it.
I didn't know
Do
you
they have
started
like an
one.
album? Do they have like an album you can listen to it? You know what I
Yeah,
mean, like a soundtrack.
I don't think so yet because it's still fairly
I'm
new.
missing out on that. Okay.
But yeah, so it is on Crunchyroll. I think there's maybe 5, 6 episodes out now. Yeah.
Add
Another
it
one
to the list.
another one
Add
to
it
the
to the
list.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm well, as I mentioned earlier, I've been watching Panchico,
Yes.
which is really good. That's what I've been doing. I don't have many new things that I'm doing right now except for that. Yeah, I mean, I'm still going through the book series, A Wheel of Time, and that's really good.
Ooh.
It's really good. Yeah. Have you seen they made it into a TV show. The first season is out on Amazon Prime. And that was good. It was good.
Oh, I gotta check it out.
Yeah,
it's
Add it to the list.
it's so good. I love it. It's be warned if you start the books. So I do audiobooks. There are 12 books in the series. So long
How
series.
long are the books? How long? Like how are each?
Was it
book?
like 10
mean-
hours or something?
10 hours? No, they're all like 25, 30 hours.
My gosh.
So they're chunky books. They're like, think
They're
Harry
chunky.
Potter. like
I love
5
Harry Potter.
or 7. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how big they are. But they're so good. So good. I've been going through those. I think I'm on book 4 right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Wow.
Taken a long
Oh.
time to get through them, but it's really good. I commute to work most
Oh,
days.
that's perfect.
So yeah, it's great. Great to have an audiobook.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so nice. Yeah, we're work from homers, so we roll right out of the bed and go right to work. Not
But
to brag.
we
Same.
used to commute, and I feel like that used to be my time to like
Yeah.
catch up on my podcasts, like
Mhm.
books, like anything. I'd even crochet on the train.
You
like,
did.
That was like my go-to time. And now that I've lost that commuting time, I'm like, oh no, how am I supposed to do these
Now
things
we
now?
can sleep.
Yeah, right. Now I sleep
Yes.
in.
Yeah.
Which isn't a negative, but
No. But I
definitely
miss
if I'm, like,
catching up. I feel like the commute always was a nice way to do little things like catching up on a book or something like that, which is
Yeah,
kind of nice. It's like
I
your
agree.
downtime in its own way. Because we
Yeah.
would take the train. I don't know if you drive or not to your work, but we
Yeah.
would take a train.
That makes sense with you guys being in New York.
Yeah.
I do miss the times. I gotta say, I love in London, the tube, just being able to hop on the
Oh,
tube
I
and
know.
go
The tube is the
anywhere you
best.
want. It's so
Mhm.
great. Yeah, because I could actually sit down and read a book
Yep.
instead of just listening to it, which
Mhm.
was really, really nice. Because there's something different about like actively driving and then
Yeah.
just kind of checking out a little bit, not too much, but because you still have to know where your
Of
stop is.
course. Of course.
But
Yes.
yeah, I miss that. I miss trains. I wish trains were more of a thing here in the US. But they're not. Public transportation in Europe is way better. Way
Yes.
It's more convenient for sure.
Yeah.
Things are much
I
more.
always get so frustrated that but I also have to remind myself that we were the first like to invent the train. That's why we're so much more outdated than everyone else. So it's like that's probably why ours is so annoying because
In
everyone
New
could like
York,
go
it's
and
when we
make it
travel,
better.
when we travel, like you
Yeah.
said, like with London, the tube is amazing. In New
Mhm.
York, it's not amazing. It's disgusting.
It's so
Yeah.
It's gross. And but when every time we travel somewhere and I like see their mode of transportation, I'm like, we're in New York. How have we not updated this yet? You know what I mean? It's like, what year are we
Yeah.
in? Like
The
the
tube is top tier, I would say.
tube is tough. But fun fact, actually, I will say, and this, I don't think this will be much of a surprise, but I will say if London, Japan, and Korea had a train baby, it'd be the best.
It really
It'd be the
would.
best
They
transportation.
had the best sort of modes of
System.
Yeah, they had the best systems. in
I
my
say, here's
opinion.
the thing: if you, I mean, London, it's English, but if you don't speak a language, and I can understand where I'm going from point A to B, that's successful. Like we're product designers, so
Yeah.
it's like if something works that way, like and it's just a visual cue, that's how it should be done. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like,
I don't
I'm
speak
impressed.
Japanese, but I was able to get around with no problem. I didn't need a smartphone to get around. It was very,
Which is very. I was impressed by their system. I was like, kudos, Japan.
especially that in Korea for sure.
Yeah.
There's just things that I was like, that just makes sense. Like the tube is just beautiful.
It is.
Yeah, it's nice to know that you don't necessarily have to speak the language when you travel. That's what I kind of
Yeah.
I worry about, honestly.
Mhm.
Traveling, going to places where they don't speak English. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, how am I going to do this? Like just by myself, or like if it's just Josh and I, how would we get around if we don't speak the language? And we've got a lot of tools, obviously, now with our wonderful
Yeah,
phones, but
yeah.
yeah. So, but that's good to know. Good to know.
Yeah,
I did
you can
find,
do-
huh?
Oh no, saying like you guys can do it. We could do
Oh.
it. You can do it.
Yeah, you can do
Yeah,
it
yeah.
for sure.
Make it work. I will say in France, I was there and in Paris specifically, and on the metro, right? Is what they call
Yes.
it there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think yeah.
I think, yeah, it's super cool, first of all, because everything is art. I've forgotten the style. Art Nouveau? Yes, Art Nouveau.
Yeah.
It's all the
Yeah.
very like 20s. It's very
Yes.
stylistic. Anyway,
Oh.
it's really cool.
Very
to think about it
Paris.
that way. Yeah,
Yes, it is.
exactly.
Very Paris, as you'd
Um,
expect.
yes, but I remember the first time when one of the trains came by and it was a double-decker train, and I was like, "What? This is amazing! Underground, 2 levels of a train. Like, yeah, sure. Why not? Why is that not a thing in other places?"
I
That was
know.
really
I think
cool.
the first thing when we were in Paris, the first time I've ever seen it, and I was like, "This is so smart." They had the walls so that you couldn't fall into the the train, which I thought was
The
brilliant.
rails.
The rails. I was
Because
like,
in New York, sadly, that's been a problem. People get, which I don't mean to scare people, but people get kicked into the into the middle sometimes. It's been
which
crazy.
is scary. But I saw that in Paris for the first time. I think we were in
And
Versailles.
it's like if New York again, if New York had something like this, where it's just like
I was
open
like-
the doors, like it's like a sliding door thing, so you can't fall in. It's like there'd be a lot less, accidents.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
I was like, good job, Paris. Korea had it everywhere though. Like they had it at every subway. Paris, it was like very sporadic that you found that.
Yeah.
But when I saw it for the first time, I was like, that makes sense. Put a wall. Like, duh.
Make it a
Yeah.
door.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think the train stop at Westminster in the Tube in London, they have that where it's the full like door situation. Like, yeah,
makes
that's they do it at airports, right? That's
Yes.
most
Yeah,
airports.
they do.
Yes.
You have
they
like
do,
the
you're
little
right.
transportation.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah. The
I know, so smart. But New York, shame on us.
Not
Not having any of that.
Another strongly worded letter we need to send.
Yeah.
There we go.
City of New York, come on, man.
Well, we want to thank our guests, Shannon and Kristen, for being with us today.
Mhm.
And if people want to find you and follow you, where can they find you?
At the Vogel Twins.
Yeah, you can find us on pretty much any social platform. We have a website, thevogeltwins.com. So you can see any sort of like updates on our podcast episodes, things like that, but also our travels as well. So, but I would say for the most part, if you're looking for like very daily updates, Instagram's probably the go-to.
Yeah.
TikTok is a new thing, but which is actually really great if you're looking for more on the lines of, like how-tos, tips, travel things. Like it's very our
I have a whole
TikTok.
series on our trip to Japan.
Yeah.
I'm sharing some from California. A lot of the trips that we've documented, we share on TikTok. So if you ever want to plan a trip to any of the places that we've been to, you can save these videos and hopefully we've inspired you to go somewhere, which is we
Yeah.
hope to do in our socials is inspire other people to travel.
Yeah, but at the Vogel Twins is where you'll find us.
Yes.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Simple.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very easy.
Pretty not creative. It's pretty direct.
Sometimes that's the best, though.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I think
Gets
so.
to the point.
It gets to the point.
Well, we hope you all have enjoyed listening to our take on House Moving Castle and just talking Studio Ghibli, anime, all the great things that it encompasses. And we will see you all next week.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Analuia podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to keep up with all the latest information. We would love to hear your comments and questions about today's episode, as well as suggestions for future episodes. You can message us on our socials or email us at contact@analuia.com.
All right, let me stop the recording.
That's all right.